The following program is presented with closed captioning available. This is a service of Maricopa College's television, Channel 115.
Good evening. I'd like to call to order the Governing Board meeting of February 26, 2013. Welcome to everyone. Mr. Lund, will you lead in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
For substitutes tonight, we have John Webster in place of George Kakajian. Welcome, Mr. Webster. The next item on the agenda is the student life reports. Mr. Mike Green from Chandler Gilbert Community College.
President Burke, members of the board, Chancellor Glasper, and members of CC, thank you for having us tonight. I am Colt Norcutt. I am the president of the Associated Students of Chandler Gilbert Community College, and I'm going to have the merry men and women of the Associated Students introduce themselves behind me.
I'm Bianca Moncada. I'm the vice president of the Associated Students, and my major is agriculture education.
My name is Miranda Ladd. I'm the secretary, and my major is elementary education.
My name is Josh Terrell. I am the public relations officer, and my major is business.
Hi, I'm Peyton Norcutt. I am campus events commissioner, and I'm studying to be an interior designer.
I'm Haley Valiatini. I'm publicity commissioner, and I'm double majoring in political science and Arabic.
Ooh.
Yeah, ooh is right. So, what is the Associated Students of Chandler Gilbert Community College? Well, it's any students involved with student life and the student government aspect. Who you see behind me are the student government aspect of the Associated Students. Each week, we have one meeting with all the clubs in one room where we have a representative come in and give club reports of what that club is doing for the week, as well as meeting with us to discuss any items such as proposals or anything they might request for, such as T-shirts or any kind of funding like that. And we also have special guests there. This picture actually features Linda Lujan and her executive leadership team meeting with us to discuss some administrative matters that have been going on. For club-wise, we have a variety of different clubs here at Chandler Gilbert, including the Intercultural Exchange Club, the Hands Enriching Lives Project, which is a volunteer service organization, as well as major-based clubs such as the Engineering Club. So we're going to get into the events of what ASCDCC, which is the Associated Students, has been doing since its reinstatement from its hiatus for a few years back. The first thing we did was our major event was the Brave Family Movie Night, where we had two showings, one at the Pecos campus at Chandler Gilbert and one at the Williams, where we had over 600 students, families, and faculty attend. It was a huge success, and we hope to have big events like this in the future for the community. We then worked on the Adopt a Family program, which is a tradition at Chandler Gilbert Community College, in which we help underprivileged student families at Chandler Gilbert to get funding they need for the necessities to get through the holidays. We fundraised using car wash and hot chocolate sales, and after all that, we did the gift wrapping for the gifts. In total, there was $1,800 raised for the Adopt a Family program, with most of it coming from the Associated Students. We also do an event called the Chill and Grill, which Student Life puts on to offer free food to students at Chandler Gilbert to get them involved with student life clubs and organizations such as that. We had over 1,200 students at the last one this spring semester, and we had special guest Vice Chancellor Felicia Ganther there, handing out chips to all the students at Chandler Gilbert. And a new tradition we're trying to start is our new game nights. This semester, this has been our major event. We just had one on February 20th where we played Family Feud. We had 4 clubs attend and form teams, and we had 30 students participate and form their own teams. And so it was a lot of fun. Even after the tournament, we continued playing and all that. We are also planning on having one on March 20th, which you guys are welcome to come out. It's going to be at 7 p.m. at Chandler Gilbert. We don't know what game yet, so if you have a suggestion, please let us know. So what's our future plans for the associate students? Well, this is our first year back, so this was our foundational year. And so we are working on recruiting new officers for next year, setting up the central leadership for next year's officers and to ensure that student government continues smoothly. We're also working with President Lujan and her administration in any needs they need our assistance with, whether it's student opinions, any involvement with students, and participating in any events, such as the Coyote Center groundbreaking we are currently working on with her. And we are also working on all new student orientations, which is when Chandler Gilbert outreaches and makes the transition easier to join the community college. And so we've been involved with recruitment as well as making the students feel like they belong at Chandler Gilbert and associate with them, because the more they feel like they belong at a campus, the more likely they are to succeed. So, and also we have been working on planning for the end of year banquet, which is when Student Life puts us on each year, and we are working with them to set up how we're going to do it. And it's when the students of Student Life, as well as the faculty, are recognized and awarded for their service to Student Life and all student activities, as well as at this time we are going to announce our new central leadership for the associate students, which is going to be fantastic. So a lot of prep work going on, a lot of setup for next year. And that is all I have. This is a wonderful picture features Katie Campbell, Mike Green, and Allison Whiting of the Student Life Office. Do you have any questions?
You guys did an awesome job. You look nice. I like the black shirts.
Oh, thank you.
Looks real cool, yeah.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
We want to thank you for your commitment and your work with students. We're very proud of you. Thank you.
Well, thank you.
Go home and study.
The next item on the agenda is Emeritus Awards and Recognitions. Dr. Jan Gaylor from Scottsdale Community College.
Thank you very much, President Burke, members of the Governing Board, Chancellor Glasper, and CEC members, and distinguished guests. I'd like to ask Beth Ells to come join me at the podium. I know she's here. Good evening. Good evening. A proud Scottsdale artichoke for 34 years. Beth Ells has served as the first as an adjunct faculty member, initially teaching art history, and then adding photography and humanities when she became full-time in 1982. She doesn't look that old, does she? Beth is the original art faculty on the team-taught Humanities 250 and 251 course, inspiring a whole rooms full of students for over 19 years. In her pursuit of excellence, she was part of the first cohort to complete the Instructional Skills Workshop in 1991, elevating the photography program to among the very best in Maricopa. Evidence of Beth's mastery in teaching, beyond some pretty wonderful students, is a generous gift by a former student, first made in 2001 and continued every year since then, the established Beth E. Ells Scholarship. For over 10 years, Beth was day and evening art department chair, and for the last 8 years, she served as chair of the Division of Fine Arts. She represented the art department on Faculty Senate, where she served also as treasurer, and likely has some wonderful memories as she led 5 trips for the European International Education Abroad students. Beth was the ultimate go-to person on campus, one of a handful of campus leaders called on to tackle big projects, big ideas, and big challenges. Absolutely universally respected by faculty, staff, and administration, Beth always employed a collaborative approach to problem solving that often yielded innovative and effective solutions to sometimes some vexing issues on campus. You could find her always supporting students and her faculty at the many, many, many musical and theatrical productions and art and photography exhibits and shows. Her integrity, her sense of humor, her unwavering commitment to students has created a lasting legacy of quality teaching and service. Beth epitomizes our SCC values of innovation and excellence. Last but certainly not least, for 11 years, Beth has gladly played second chair to the Canine Companions for Independence service puppies in training that she has brought to our campus and our college, producing smiles, of course, wherever she goes. In fact, even before I arrived at SCC, Beth was one of the very early folks who sent me an email message asking permission to continue having dogs on campus, a very special dogs on campus training. I, of course, said yes. And it was a wonderful, wonderful experience. And it's not that this is about Beth and her puppies, but in doing that, in playing that role, I think Beth really demonstrated to a lot of us the consistent and compassionate caring, not only for her four-legged companions, but for the students who loved her and were always her legacy. Beth, we will all miss you very, very much. And so it is my pleasure, with this action and on behalf of the faculty and staff of Scottsdale Community College, I heartily recommend the award of emeritus status to Beth Ells. Unaccustomed as you are.
Unaccustomed as I am to speaking, yeah. Thank you very much. Wow, that's quite a litany of things over the last 34 years. I just want to say that it has been my absolute privilege to work at Scottsdale Community College, part of the Maricopa Community College District. And I don't know what else to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Dr. Sean Pan from Mesa Community College. Oh, he's not here? Okay. Next is Dr. Anna Saleh from Phoenix College. Oh, you want to? Oh, Dr. Kovala, you have two together. Is that
yes,
all right?
That's correct.
Okay.
Good evening, Mr. Burke, members of the Governing Board, Chancellor Glassberg, colleagues and guests. I'd like to ask Dr. Camila Westenberg to join me at the podium. Thank you. Let me tell you a little bit about this outstanding lady. Dr. Westenberg was born in Arkansas. She has a Bachelor of Science degree in Music Education and English from the University of Arkansas, Master of Arts degree in Communication from Arizona State University, and her Doctor of Education in Higher Education from Nova University. She has been a tenured professor at Phoenix College for a number of years, and she just recently retired. She retired in December, much to our discontent, by the way. She advocated for and coordinated developmental English while at PC. She also taught many English classes, African American literature, and a class which she created entitled Rap Literature, the Oral Tradition. She has participated in numerous conferences, workshops, roundtables. She is a noted authority on hip-hop media, and she has, again, presented not just nationally, but internationally. For example, she's presented at the Rhyme and Reason Conference in Cape Coast, Ghana, and the WAPI Festival at the British Council in Accra, Ghana, and most recently in Ethiopia. She was also an advisor for the PC NAACP, Black Student Union. She was a SAS advisor. That means that she was an academic faculty advisor for our student athletes, especially for those athletes on the football team. She was also a faculty advisor for our African American Alumni Association. She has numerous civic and community affiliations. She's been co-chair of the annual City of Phoenix MLK Youth Celebration. She's a member of Alpha Kappa Alpha sorority, Delta Beta Omega chapter. And for many years, she and her sorority sisters have sponsored a transfer fair for historically black colleges and universities at PC. She's also a member of Phoenix chapter of the Lynx, a member of the Maricopa Council of Black American Affairs, the Maricopa NAACP, and the National Pan-Hellenic Council Metropolitan Phoenix chapter. So we're all wondering, where does she find time for all the great things that she does? Her students love her. And as a result, she's won numerous awards, among which are the Maricopa County NAACP Image Award, the City of Phoenix MLK Living the Dream Award, the George Washington Carver Museum Community Service Award, the PC Alumni Association Faculty Award, the PC Woman of Distinction Award, and several NISOT awards. Most recently, she received the Southwest Urban Music Lifetime Achievement Award and has become a member of the Board of Directors for the West Valley Fine Arts Council. But Dr. Westenberg will proudly tell you that her most proudest achievement, and that of her late husband's, Dr. Irwin Simon Westenberg, is the parenting, development, and education of their daughter, Erica Lucinda Westenberg, who, by the way, is getting married this semester. That's part of the reason Dr. Westenberg decided to retire. So it gives me great pleasure, and we are truly honored to present her for recommendation to you for Meritorious Distinction. And I'm going to turn it over to her, but then Dr. Kovala will speak about her late husband, Dr. Irwin Westenberg. Thank you.
Board members, Dr. Glasper, Dr. Solly, and others here in the room, I would like to say it has been a blessing to work in the Maricopa Community College District. Every day I have felt quite privileged to drive down I-17 to Phoenix College. The students are adorable. I won't say all of them, but they are absolutely adorable. And in many ways, they have given more to me than I have given to them. It is absolutely wonderful to maneuver throughout the community and see our young people out functioning as they should as a result of having been exposed to this district. And so I would like to say thank you so very much. I am now more community than I am Maricopa. I have had to tell some people that that does not mean I am taking a rocking chair. I am still going to be about, and I hope to engage in some activities with some of the associations with Maricopa as well. Thank you so very much. It has truly been a wonderful, wonderful experience for me.
President Burke, members of the board, Dr. Glasper, CEC, and honored guests, it's my privilege to come forward with the recommendation for emeritus distinction for Dr. Irwin S. Westenberg and his contribution to students and faculty within the Maricopa Community College District, and it warrants the designation of emeritus status upon his tragic and premature death on the 7th of February 2000 as a dedicated faculty member in the psychology department at Glendale Community College. He served for 16 years, 5 months, and 21 days at GCC as a dedicated and well-known psychology instructor. In 1983, when Dr. I.S. Westenberg and his internationally known Westernberg Long Evans strain of laboratory rats joined the Glendale Community College Psychology Department, tradition of student-generated, non-invasive behavioral research began at our college, and I'm pleased to say continues to this day. Stimulation of Dr. Westenberg's intellectual curiosity, his wealth of broad-based scientific knowledge, and a constant admonition to show me the data, coupled with a mantra of simplicity, precision, and control, has culminated in a steady stream of student-given animal model research presentations at conventions at both the Western Psychology Association and the American Psychological Association during his tenure and continuing after his death by department and faculty. It is really my honor to recommend his status as emeritus distinction and on behalf of Glendale Community College. And I'd like his wife to say a few words.
On behalf of our daughter, Erica Lucinda Westingberg, and myself, I truly appreciate the recognition of my husband. He loved his rats. And our daughter was a daddy's girl, but he loved his rats too. We would go out to dinner, and before we would go home, we would have to stop at Glendale to check on the rats. And so this means everything to us. It was a part of his life. My husband was in the heart sciences. He worked on Alzheimer's and Parkinson's, and he looked for cures for diseases. And we just thank you so very much for this recognition.
Thank you. I want to add someone else to the recognition portion. Our Chancellor, Dr. Glasper, was recently awarded recognition from the Arizona Society of CPAs. They have an honor called Legends and Leaders, and Dr. Glasper is the most recent recipient of that award from the Arizona Society of CPAs. And I'd like to read a paragraph from the program. Dr. Glasper's dedication to education and our community, specifically, his work to ensure that all members of our community have access to education, has made a tremendous impact that will last beyond his years. He is a CPA who is a role model not only for other CPAs, but for all Arizonans. We want us to recognize Dr. Glasper for this award. The next item on the agenda is the Citizens Interim. The board offers opportunity for members of the public to address the governing board. Tina, do we have any? We have none tonight, all right. The next item on the agenda is approval of the order of the agenda. Is there a motion to approve?
Second.
Mr. Saar moves. Mr. Lum seconds the motion to approve the order of the agenda. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion approved. The next item is the consideration of the consent agenda. Does anyone wish to remove any items from the consent agenda? Hearing none, I entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Move we approve the consent agenda.
Mr. Lum moves. Mr. Saar seconds a motion to approve the consent agenda. Is there any discussion? All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries unanimously. Under the non-consent agenda, the first item is with business services, the approval of the audiovisual systems contract award for the Cranich Student Center remodel at Paradise Valley Community College. Mrs. Thompson?
Mr. President, members of the board, this project is part of our 2004 bond program, a very important project for the college, both to remodel and to expand. And this action item before you is to put in place a new audiovisual system, and we recommend its approval.
Okay. Is there a motion to approve?
Move.
Mr. Saar moves.
Second.
Mr. Lum seconds a motion for the approval of the audiovisual systems contract award for the Cranich Student Center remodel at Paradise Valley Community College. Any discussion? All right, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion passes unanimously. The next item is the approval of the contract award for the initial partial construction of the Coyote Center at Chandler Gilbert Community College. Ms. Thompson?
Mr. President, members of the board, this project also is one of our 2004 bond projects. The center is a very significant project also for Chandler Gilbert. It will support student enrollment services in a one-stop model and also support student fitness and athletics. This is an award that will allow the development of the new facility to move forward in terms of site work, utility work, and then procurement of some materials that take a long lead time to put in place, and we recommend its approval.
Is there a motion to approve?
I move.
Mr. Miranda moves. Mr. Lum seconds the motion for the approval of the contract award for the initial partial construction of the Coyote Center at Chandler Gilbert Community College. Is there any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries. The third item is the approval of the contract award for the initial partial remodeling of the 3700 North 3rd Avenue Nursing Building of Phoenix College. Ms. Thompson?
Mr. President, members of the board, this is a facility that the district recently purchased on behalf of Phoenix College, and they will be locating their nursing program in the facility. And this is also, like the Coyote Center, to get started on site work, utility work, some demolition and structural modifications, the early phases of the development of the facility.
Is there a motion to approve?
Second.
Mr. Sarr moves. Mr. Lum seconds the motion for the approval of the contract award for the initial partial remodeling of the 3700 North 3rd Avenue Nursing Building of Phoenix College. Is there any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries unanimously. The next item is the approval of the construction contract award for construction and remodeling of the new Performing Arts Center, Harkins Theater at Mesa Community College. Ms. Thompson.
Mr. President, members of the board, this also is a 2004 bond project, and we purchased the Harkins Theater and the neighboring restaurant with some of the proceeds from our program. These requested funds are for the construction and remodeling, as the title of the item indicates, and we recommend its approval.
Okay. Is there a motion to approve?
I move.
Second.
Mr. Miranda moves. Mr. Lum seconds the motion for the construction contract award for construction and remodeling of the new Performing Arts Center, Harkins Theater at Mesa Community College. Is there any discussion? When all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries. The next item is the approval of the audiovisual systems contract award for Estrella Hall expansion and remodel at Estrella Mountain Community College. Ms. Thompson.
Mr. President, members of the board, this project also is part of our 2004 bond program, and like the Paradise Valley project, is for audio-visual systems that will be used in Estrella Hall, both the expansion and remodeling in new classrooms, information commons, study rooms, conference center, and other spaces, and we recommend its approval.
I move we approve it.
All right, Mr. Lum moves.
Second.
Mr. Sarr seconds a motion for the approval of the audiovisual systems contract award for Estrella Hall's expansion and remodel at Estrella Mountain Community College. Is there any discussion?
Here.
Yeah. Go ahead, Dan.
You first. No. Mr. Lum and I had a chance to tour this building in the last week, and very impressive. It matches a lot of the architecture we saw at the South Mountain Library. The student areas in there, both for individual study and group study, are all over the place, and I'm really glad this project came to fruition. We need to put some AV in there, and we're done.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, thank Dr. Lara for the tour. It's important for the expansion, the growth on the west side. It's a beautiful building and a beautiful addition to the campus. You get a deja vu if you've seen the South Mountain Library. It has a same architect, same look and feel, the floating rooms. Beautiful building, and I think this last addition of the audiovisual system would be beneficial to that addition.
Okay.
Yes, I think it's also important to note that it's an area of growth, as Mr. Lum indicated, and also along with the Chandler Regional. I'm thinking of hospitals here. But the Chandler, the facility out there, I mean, they're growing in those two areas. and I think I support it wholeheartedly.
All right, let's see. We have a motion and a second, don't we?
Right.
All right. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries unanimously. I just wanted to say, we've gone through several contract awards for construction all around the district, and all of these support our work with students. It helps to improve programs. It helps the success of students, and I just want to say thanks to our public for voting this bond issue in 2004. That money is being put to good use, and I'm really pleased about these programs that we're approving.
What's that?
The next item has to do with human resources, the approval of fiscal year 2013-2014 health care funding. Ms. Jackson?
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the board. We submit tonight for board approval the EBAC recommendation, that's our Employee Benefits Advisory Council, the recommendation of increasing the flex benefit program that will include a $680,000 increase in order to help absorb some of the costs associated with increased medical claims, and also so that we may comply with the provisions of the Federal Affordable Care Act. We recommend it for approval tonight.
Is there a motion to approve? Mr. Sarr moves. Mr. Lum seconds a motion for the approval of fiscal year 2013-2014 health care funding. Is there any discussion? All right, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries unanimously. Next is the approval of the proposed staff policy manual. Ms. Jackson?
Mr. President, members of the board, we're recommending tonight the repeal of the existing all-employee manual and the adoption and the approval, if you will, of the consolidated staff policy manual that has been submitted for your review with an effective date of May 1st, 2013.
All right. Is there a motion to approve this program?
I move we approve the policy manual.
All right, Mr. Lum moves.
Second.
Mr. Sarr seconds the motion for the approval of the proposed staff policy manual. Is there any discussion?
Just point of clarification, Mr. President. We're going to operate under the existing manual until May 1st.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
And then, Mr. President, there's a memorandum of understanding. Is that part of this, or is that a separate document?
It's ancillary too.
All right. All those in favor of the proposed staff policy manual, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries unanimously. The next item on the agenda is academic affairs. The first item is the approval of the conditional award of contract for Enterprise Content Management System, document imaging, for the seamless student experience. Ms. Harper-Marinick?
Thank you, Mr. Burke, members of the board, Chancellor Glasper, members of CEC, and guests. We recommend the approval of the award of a 5-year contract with Highland Software for the Enterprise Content Management System. And this is based on reasons provided by the Acting Chief Procurement Officer. You have attachments with all of the details about the budget and the reasons. Thank you.
Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Mr. Sarr moves.
Second.
Mr. Miranda seconds a motion for the approval of the conditional award of contract for Enterprise Content Management System, document imaging, for the seamless student experience. Is there discussion?
Just quickly. Mr. President, I just want to thank the members of staff that put up with my questions for the last week or two. They did a great job of convincing me that this was a step in the right direction.
Good. Okay. All right. All those in favor of the conditional award of contract for Enterprise Content Management System for the seamless student experience, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries unanimously. The next item on the agenda are information items. The first is the review of the proposed fee changes for fiscal year 2013-2014. Ms. Thompson?
Mr. President, members of the board, this first item accompanies in some way the next item, which is the proposal on tuition and fees for next fiscal year. This item, proposed fee changes, are course fees that are recommended for board approval in March, which is when we'll bring this back. There are quite a few fees. There are 155 new fees, 9 fees that existed and are proposed to increase, and 71 fees that exist and are proposed to either be reduced or eliminated. The net impact, in taking into account all of the new fees, the increases and the reductions or eliminations, is a little bit over $276,000 estimated increased dollars that students would pay. We provide considerable detail on each fee. This is provided by the colleges that are requesting the specific fees, and if you have any questions, we will answer your questions.
Yeah. Board members have questions? Okay. All right. Is there a motion? No, there's no need for a motion. This is an information item. And then we're moving next to the review of proposed tuition and fees fiscal year 2013-2014 budget.
Mr. President and members of the board, as Ms. Murphy is coming to the microphone, I would like your permission to, after she gives her presentation, to pull 3 items from the Chancellor's report as additional presentations, and so that we can continue the questionings of things that have major impact in terms of the budget that she'll be presenting.
All right, Shirley.
Thank you.
Mr. President, members of the board, I have a brief introduction, and then Associate Vice Chancellor Gay Murphy will provide a more detailed presentation that will be followed by 3 additional presentations that provide even more detail on several of the initiatives we're speaking to tonight. Tonight is the first of 4 information or action items on the proposed budget for fiscal 13-14. As indicated, tonight is a review of the administration's proposal on tuition and fees, though as part of this presentation we are also sharing both historical information about how our budget has evolved in recent years, particularly during this period of recession or a very down economy. And then we're also talking a little bit about our proposal on property taxes. This is very much related to the proposal on tuition and fees. In terms of schedule, in March we ask the board to adopt tuition and fees, and we'll present the proposed budget in detail as an information item. In April, we seek preliminary budget adoption. The budget can go down from that point in total, but not up, and it certainly can be rearranged in different ways. This also gives us some permission, if you will, to publish our proposed budget in the newspaper, which is a requirement under statute, and it also moves us forward in publishing our Truth in Taxation notice, also a legal requirement. Then final adoption will be set along with a Truth in Taxation roll call vote in May. I have a few words I wanted to just share about the proposed budget before I turn it over. It is, I think, quite an ambitious budget, in many ways the most ambitious in a number of years, because it's not only looking to fund the mandatory increases that we have focused on in recent years, but it's really looking to focus resources on some very strategic initiatives that the district has been planning for over the last several years that we believe will improve student success, advance the completion agenda goals that the board has adopted, and generally to improve service to our community. In order to fund these strategic initiatives, we are recommending a $5 a credit hour tuition increase and also a 2% increase in property taxes, which is an amount that's permitted under the state constitution, a provision that's existed for 30 years. For some perspective, over the past 5 years, during this recession and during this sluggish economy, we have attempted to minimize revenue increases in the form of tuition and levy increases. Since fiscal 08-09 and through fiscal 12-13, we've only increased the tuition rate once and only increased the levy according to the 2% provision once. Though in this same period we've lost $60 million in state aid, and otherwise our revenues have been pretty limited. So to manage this in the face of limiting our rate increases and losing as much aid as we did, we had budget cuts of $35 million annualized over the last several years and another $11 million in capital. But in the 1 year that we lost $38 million of our state aid, we did propose those revenue increases in tuition and the levy. to conclude my remarks, as we've managed these challenges financially, we have looked forward and we've been planning these key initiatives that will better our community. We think examples being seamless student experience, student success initiative, improvement of the ratio of credits taught by residential faculty to 60-40 over a period of time, adding some police officers at our colleges, enhancing our IT operations, and several other initiatives. And for these reasons, to make these improvements and enhancements, we are asking the board to consider the $5 tuition increase and the 2% levy increase. We think that those resources will allow us to make meaningful improvements and contributions to our students and community. So at this point, I'd like to turn the presentation over to Gay Murphy, and then following her presentation, we'll have a presentation on public safety, then on the seamless student experience, and then information technology. Thank you, Gay.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. President, Governing Board, Chancellor Glasper, CEC members, and guests. It's really my pleasure, my honor to be here this evening to talk to you about our budget and our plans for the coming fiscal year. In financial planning, we are always very worried about the future. It's what we do. When the recession came, we had a lot of things going for us. The district is pretty fiscally conservative to begin with, and we also prepare a 15-year financial plan every fall where we look at our past and try to use that to project where we're going to go in our future. And what we could quickly see when the recession came is that we could no longer simply look at our past and project the future. We really had to come up with some creativity, some really fast planning in order to keep the district moving through this time. It really helped us when we got the federal stimulus and then the moratorium on further state cuts. And also through this time, we did continue to see some increases in revenue from new property, from new construction, much smaller than what we had seen, but we did continue to see that. And now, although we do see still problems with declining assessed valuation, we see more in terms of coming back of that new construction and that things are really turning the corner for us in Maricopa County. And this pie chart shows our total budget for the district for the current year, which is fiscal year 12-13. And as Ms. Thompson said, next month we'll be bringing to you a plan for next year. We budget across 4 major funds: the general fund, the auxiliary fund, the restricted fund, and the plant fund. And this chart shows the resources that go into those funds. The general fund is where we pay our day-to-day operating expenses, employee salaries, supplies, utilities. For the auxiliary fund, that is our fee-for-service activities. Restricted is mostly grants, gifts, and federal financial aid makes up the largest part. And finally, we have our plant fund, which is our large-scale capital maintenance and construction projects and equipment purchase. Most of the plant funds now, we rely on bond proceeds to support. So now I want to talk a bit about our general operating fund, since it is where we support our day-to-day operations. At this time, we're looking at a real change in the way that we're funded. When I started working with the community colleges many years ago, there was a plan that we'd provide support for the colleges, 1/3 from state support, 1/3 from property tax, and 1/3 from tuition. And now what we've seen in very rapid fashion is more reliance on the property tax, more reliance on student tuition, and state support dropping to 1% and possibly less by next year. So in terms of developing the budget for next year, The governing board will set tuition and fees, and we've provided for you at this meeting as an information item a recommendation or a proposal on an increase there. The governing board also sets property taxes within the constitutional limits and according to the process and timeline laid out in state statutes. We received our assessed valuation information on February 9th, and that was within the statutory deadline, so we have a pretty good idea of our property tax revenue for next year. The only thing we don't know at this time is the amount that we would receive from the Salt River project. They don't exactly pay a property tax, but they are a quasi-governmental entity, and they make a payment to us in lieu of property tax. When their board approves the in lieu payments in another couple of weeks, we'll have the final pieces pretty much put together. As far as the state aid goes, both the governor and the legislature have recommended the same amount of funding, so there really shouldn't be a surprise in that area at all. In terms of the biggest impact that we had during the recession was the loss of $61 million in state tax support between 2009 and 2012. What we lost was all of our capital state aid. These were funds that we used for major maintenance, library books, equipment. The loss of these funds meant that we really had to stretch our operating support to cover some of these capital needs as well, which wasn't really very easy since we took over a $50 million cut in operating support as well. Another impact of the recession was a decline in the growth that we received from new construction added to the tax rolls. At one time when we were in 2009, we were getting like 18 million or more. Now we're down to a little over 8 million. But it is an increase, and it is an increase over last year, and we do consider that a very positive sign of economic growth in the valley. The information that we just received from the county assessor's office shows that we're down 6.6% in the primary net assessed valuation and 6.3% in the secondary. The valuations that we use for the tax levy purposes are 2 years old. So really, this is a window back to our recent past. We do have an indication that things are on the upswing. According to a recent Arizona Republic article reported just last week, the county assessor's office is showing an increase in property values. This is going to be a factor in setting the property tax levy for the next year. And we're very pleased to see that. So let me explain a little bit about how this works. Under this example, a house valued at $100,000 in 2013 would pay $115.63. In order to keep that cost the same for fiscal year 2013, the governing board would need to increase the tax rate because the value went down. So although the rate would go up, the person would pay the same amount. What we're looking at is a proposal for a 2% increase in the tax levy. What that would mean is with a 2% increase, the homeowner that paid $115.63 last year would pay $117.94 per $100,000 next year. That's a difference of $2.31. If we're talking about a $200,000 home, for example, then the impact would just double. So it would go from $231 to $235, or a difference of $4.62. Switching now a bit to tuition, Maricopa has traditionally been below the average of the public two-year institutions in the western United States and nationally as well. We have seen an increase in tuition growth since 2007, when the economy started to falter. The governing board has increased tuitions 2 times, once in 2009, once in 2012. We are proposing an increase that you will see as an information item this month. Students taking 30 credit hours over an academic year would pay $2,430, and we would still remain below the average of the national two-year colleges, both in the West as well as nationally. That would be an increase of $150 over the academic year. As Ms. Thompson said, the other impact of the recession was internal cuts of over $35 million since 2010. This was a lot to cut and to implement those cuts in a limited period of time, but we managed to do so without sending our district into chaos. Classes were taught, students were served, and we think we can actually do a better job with those things. And we have some initiatives underway to improve instructional outcomes. But we're going to need additional resources to look at these. From the new property, new construction, and some other adjustments, we think we're going to have about $8.6 million to put towards new initiatives and mandatory costs. We're looking at an increase in the tuition of $5 and a 2% increase in the levy. That would produce a little over $29 million. To help in the decision-making process, Maricopa's Financial Advisory Council has made recommendations on the prioritization of expenditures. The mandatory expenditures are really a short list of things that that we really have to address. It's either some kind of legal or contractual obligation. Beyond that, we have a short list of important and strategic initiatives. We do think that we will have sufficient money from the new construction to address the mandatory, but there are an awful lot of strategic and important needs that are on the list as well. As far as the mandatory needs, the list usually doesn't change a whole lot from year to year. These are the items that either have a statutory obligation or an internal requirement. As an example, when the governing board approved the increase in health insurance, we will now consider that as a mandate, and we'll add that to the list. Looking at the available resources from the new construction, we could support everything that's on this list, and we would have about $2 million left for the other important items. But as I said, it's really an important list. We have both the SSE and the SSI initiatives that are already well underway. These are part of Maricopa's completion agenda. I know you receive periodic updates on those. SSE will employ best practices and better use of technology for enrollment and financial aid in order to make these processes more efficient and effective. For the SSI effort, we will extend mandatory testing, placement, orientation, and advisement for more students. Increasing the number of residential faculty will increase the foundation of our instructional infrastructure with permanent positions that have a long-term professional commitment to teaching. This is a long-term initiative, 8 to 10 years, to move the ratio of credit hours taught by residential faculty versus adjunct faculty to 60%, 40%. So it would be 60% of the credit hours would be taught by residential faculty. For next year, we're looking at an increase in 32 positions. Just a few years ago, Maricopa took the initial steps to create an armed public safety presence in the district. Our chief and several of our commanders have reviewed police staffing, and they've made recommendations to increase the numbers of officers by 50%, or 23 positions across the district, in order to ensure better coverage for deterrence and policing, coverage that also better aligns us with other higher education institutions. And I know that you'll receive a bit more information in just a few minutes. We need to look at need-based scholarships, need-based financial aid, as a commitment or as a complement to the presidential scholarships, as well as to complement efforts by the Community Colleges Foundation fundraising for scholarships campaign. The information technology need has to do with the operational support to the district's information technology division that's responsible for both maintaining existing systems as well as making necessary updates and planning new systems. We know that all 4 of our enterprise systems, and those are our big computer systems that are district-wide, are going to require a major update or replacement within the next few years. Most have been in place for more than a decade now. And the student information system requires an upgrade to the latest module and to ensure seamless student experiences. The new system requires programming for one academic system, Maricopa-wide, instead of 10 separate customized systems, one for each college. Similarly, our HR and our budget development system require updates and programming around the upcoming results of the classification and compensation study. And our accounting system truly is at the end of its life cycle and will need replacement in about 2 to 3 years, since it will no longer be supported by Oracle. We've used the system, though we've had some updates, but it's been in use since the mid-1990s. And lastly, we need better reporting tools so that we can keep managers abreast of where we are financially and help them make better management decisions. The need for funds is generally to build the IT department to effectively manage the systems we all use and depend on to enroll our students, to manage staff resources, and in some ways to serve our communities. These funds are an investment to have adequate numbers of IT professionals on staff to manage the implementation of these systems and the new systems, to continue to manage our existing systems, to have funds for ongoing technical training, to maintain skills, and to have staff to guide us in researching and the development, use, and implementation of the new technologies and new systems. The employee flex benefits is one for the health insurance, which you've approved this evening. Marketing and public outreach is an investment towards letting the citizens of Maricopa County know that their Maricopa colleges are a value added to the quality of life in this area and are a solution to their educational and training needs. And finally, we have employee salary adjustments as may be determined by the board, and the governing board may determine other initiatives as it so desires. And that's my presentation. Thank you.
Are there questions from the board?
You're talking about an increase in marketing and public outreach?
Yes.
And we do it the same way we've been doing it with advertising, or anything different about that?
Generally, I believe that is correct. But if
Mr.
you'd like more
President,
information.
members of the board, I think that there'll be some new approaches and new types of campaigns in order to reach out to the community. So it's not just moving forward with the same kinds of slogans, but it's trying to build on what we do and trying to realign towards current approaches.
Could you elaborate just a little bit on the employee flex benefits
The employee flex benefits are mostly health insurance. There's some life insurance, there are some small other insurance, but the largest is the health insurance, and this is the increase over the prior year's amount. And the board just approved this a couple of items ago.
And I realize that most of our funding is local, meaning from within the state of Arizona, and I don't know, I saw that little excerpt out there where it says 5% other, I think it was said 5% other, one of the displays you had out there, but in either case, does sequestration at all hit us at all? Does it impact on us at all?
Not that I'm aware.
Mr. President, members of the board, we can look into that more. There isn't anything that we've received in the way of that kind of information. There's always at times talk about Pell Grants and things like that, so there may be impacts, but I don't specifically know of any of that at the moment.
Well, the impact, I know it's going to be felt by students unless something's done out there in Washington, D.C.
With grants, Pell grants.
Right. For students for financial aid, I think they'll get hit. But for us, through any of our grants, any of our direct, if we get direct funding from, in terms of grants from the federal government, are they subject to any kind of impact?
Mr. Miranda, Mr. Burke, yes, there will be an impact. For example, anything that we get from the National Science Foundation, which for us is pretty good chunk of change, that may be impacted negatively. But we don't know that yet.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you.
I'm looking at public safety and then looking at student success. I'd like to see those numbers reversed there. But I think public safety is pretty important. But
well,
hopefully we'll have that discussion.
Yeah, Mr. President and Mr. Lum and members of the board, this might then be a good time to segue into Chief Longman's presentation on public safety.
Thank you, Ms. Murphy.
Thank you.
Mr. President, members of the board, as Chief Longman is coming forward, what we are trying to do under the area of student success is we're focusing on trying to be more effective and more efficient in what we do. It's another One Maricopa initiative. It does not have the same cost that may be associated with building an infrastructure for seamless student experience, because we're trying to utilize the resources we have at our other colleges. However, as we build this infrastructure over the next couple of years, you will see other areas under Seamless Student Initiative that will probably need to increase. And they will increase just because hopefully we'll be doing business. We'll be doing business differently. But what we're going to be doing is also bringing to you some innovative changes that will require us to fund them. What this budget is demonstrating is my recommendation to Dr. Maria Harper-Marinick is to try to utilize the current structure that we have in terms of overall resources and reallocate rather than incrementally add. So once she provides her recommendation over the next few months, then we'll get a better sense as to what the long term might be. But we believe in the short term, and the short term is the next couple of years, we think this will be sufficient for us to maintain the board's commitment to the completion agenda and to move forward in our initiatives.
Right.
Chief?
Mr. Longman?
Thank you. President Burke, board members, Chancellor Glasper, CEC, my Maricopa colleagues, and any guests. It's my honor and privilege to serve as your public safety chief. I've been here slightly over a year. Been in this business a long time. I know I don't look like it, but 37 years as a police officer, most of the time in Arizona. One of the things I want to talk to you about, a brief presentation, is a staffing recommendation. And in municipal policing, there's been empirical research over the years that's indicated what a best practice or what staffing levels should be. The last research that was done was in 2007, and it was a joint project by the International Association of Chiefs of Police and the U.S. Department of Justice. Typically, what in municipal policing, they base it upon number of residents in a community, and then a ratio of how many police officers that they need to staff. There are a lot of variables involved in the traditional policing model, but I'm going to quickly just move on to what we have found in the collegiate realm. In July of 2011, the International Association of Campus Law Enforcement Administrators and another agency of the U.S. Department of Justice, their community-oriented policing services, they also conducted imperial research, and they looked at higher ed policing throughout the nation, and they established some baselines that are really a best practice to go by. There's no magic number on a number of police officers per student ratio, because there are things that will factor. For example, a residential institution generally needs more police officers than our environment, where we don't have residences, with the exception out at the Williams campus for Chandler Gilbert. A lot of it looks at, what are the crime rates and any other factors that could possibly involve staffing. And then most recently, this is hot off the press, the National Center for Higher Education Risk Management was contracted by the Colorado Association of Campus Law Enforcement Administrators, and it looked at campus public safety almost from A to Z, but they actually addressed staffing ratios in this particular report, and they did refer back to the IACLEA and the community-oriented policing report. And typically what they're looking at, and what we see across the nation, is a staffing ratio in the range of 1 police officer to every 1,000 students. I want to give you just a little status at Maricopa Community Colleges. Currently, we have no formula that determines what our staffing ratio would be for police officers at any of our institutions. And just like we've grown as colleges, it's very individualized, and determinations have been made at the individual colleges. So one of the unintended consequences is that there's no consistent model on staffing, and therefore we have an appearance of the haves and have-nots. So we have some colleges that have considerably more police officers at those colleges than others. Some colleges are able to provide police officer presence generally whenever we have students on our campus and we're open for business, and there's some colleges that we struggle to do that. And bottom line is that we have insufficient police officer staffing to address the issues in a modern collegiate environment. We are surrounded by our communities. We are products of our communities, and we're actually to the point of becoming overwhelmed in our calls for service and ability to adequately provide for the care and safety of our students and our employees. I know that's very difficult to see, and I believe that Vice Chancellor Thompson will make that available to the board so you can see it a little bit closer. This is collegiate police officer staffing in Arizona, and what you'll see is that we have 46 certified peace officers in Arizona, or I'm sorry, at Maricopa Community Colleges, and using a very conservative student count, we are at a ratio of approximately 1 police officer to every 5,000 plus students. The next institution that's a long ways from us is Pima Community College. It's a very different environment, a different system on how they deploy their police personnel. But one of the things that I'll add is that some of the other community colleges around the state, actually, they do have residences there, and they're at a significantly better police officer to student ratio than we are. For your consideration, I also had our committee do research to look at the Southwest United States and just to see, are we just an outlier in Arizona, but what we find is in Colorado, we're clearly an outlier. There's no one anywhere close to us. You see Arapahoe Community College in Littleton at a 1 to 2,200. We look at our neighbors in California and Nevada. We have some fairly high ratios in the LA and San Diego community college systems, but it's still much better than what our status and situation is. And finally, looking at our neighbors in New Mexico and Utah. So, really, what does this mean? One of the challenges that we have, and I think one of the things that we celebrate, is our colleges and our education is in all of our communities. So what I bolded are the municipalities, including the Salt River Indian community, where we have colleges located. So there's 7 different political jurisdictions with their own police departments that we have to interact with. But then when you add our other facilities, and I very well may have missed some on my presentation slide, we're in 6 more political jurisdictions. So we're having to deal with a lot of different police departments, which translates a different level or degree of services to assist us at the colleges and to our students throughout our system. By increasing our staffing, we will be pretty much functioning and being able to handle the majority of police calls for service, the public safety calls for service. Our staffing assumptions, and this is from talking to CEC and then my contacts for the college presidents, their vice presidents of administrative services, and to our police commanders at the colleges, is a general staffing assumption that we should have armed police officers at our colleges when we're open for business, and when we have students on campus, when we have our workers on campus, that we should have armed police officers to be able to respond to calls for service. One of the things that we're absolutely incapable of doing right now is to conduct routine patrols to our satellite locations, to our other campuses throughout the system. And with the proposed staffing increase, we would be able to do that on a routine and regular basis. One of the things that I'm aware of is that what we do has to add value to our educational mission and to student access. What I submit to you is that we have both a moral and legal obligation, I think, that when students come to us, that we make it as reasonably safe as possible, and then our workers that work for us, they know that they're safe, their loved ones know that they're safe when they're working for Maricopa Community Colleges. And then finally, we need the staffing increase to be able to adequately respond to emergencies that are occurring on our campuses, sometimes on a day-to-day basis. So our staffing recommendations, and this is consistent with the 3 studies that our staffing committee researched, but really paying most attention to the IACLEA and the community-oriented policing services, because that was the one that really addressed collegiate policing. And it's our professional belief that by providing 4 police officers and a commander at our colleges that have 15,000 students or less would allow us to have police officers on our campus from at least 6 in the morning till at least 10 to midnight to give a little bit of overlap. And then also on Saturdays when we have classes on Saturdays, we have athletic events and other activities occurring. Why do we need that many? In order to cover those shifts, we need 2 officers on day shift, 2 officers on our second shift, or swing shift, if you will. And just the logical reason that happens is on any given day, somebody's going to be on vacation. Any given day, somebody potentially could call in sick. There's an enormous amount of training that's mandated by Arizona Post for police officers. So unless we staff ourselves with, at a minimum, to have 2 police officers on day shift and 2 on evening shift, it's next to impossible to assure that we're going to have a police officer on campus at all those times. And then you can see the progression that we enhance the number of police officers. One of the last check at the bottom finally also creates a model at our larger satellite campuses where getting a police officer and police officers up to Glendale North is very important to us. We already have very good staffing out at the Red Mountain campus. At the Williams campus for Chandler Gilbert, we have 1 police officer position. We need more. But this establishes a formula, so as we grow, or potentially we contract at a particular college and student enrollment, we can adjust up or down, and we can redeploy police officers as needed. The one other position that you're going to see in this is a detective sergeant. I have lots of reasons why we desperately need our own investigator, and unless you have questions, I can talk about that. We are conducting numerous routine threat assessments. We have been hiring police officers. Our detective sergeant would be able to do our background investigations. We are absolutely open and transparent to the community we serve. So we have a very robust citizen complaint system. So if we're not performing at a level that our community expects us to, they can readily inform us, and I need an investigator that can review those cases and make a determination whether our employees, whether they're the police officers or are non-sworn, are conducting business as we expect them to in our environment. This, again, I apologize for the size of the chart, but you can see where in our assessment, each of our colleges do need a plus up on police officer staffing. Some are more than others. And probably one of the interesting ones is if you look at Gateway, you see add 4 police officers, but when we look at the actual number of students enrolled at Gateway, the reason we did that is we combined the Maricopa Skills Center, and we would like the ability so that on any given day, the police commander at Gateway or any of the other colleges, when they're staffed properly, that they could send a police officer on routine patrol to go see and visit all of our properties, so that there is a collegiate police officer presence, so that all of our students and workers at all those other sites know that we care about them. As it was mentioned earlier, it's about a 50% staffing increase, but even when we do that, it only raises our ratio to 1 to 3,400 students. We have, and when I say we, our committee and my deputy chief, we've reviewed this. We absolutely believe with this staffing that we can make those assumptions come true, so that we have police officers on our properties whenever we're open for business, and there'll be a police response, an armed police response if something bad were to happen on any of our properties. And just as importantly, we will be able to finally start going to all of our other sites and visiting those sites. And finally, the recommendation, and this is hand in hand. One of the things that we absolutely need to do in my assessment is reduce our reliance on our non-certified personnel. They do provide a certain level of value as eyes and ears for a police response, but if something bad happens, if a crime's committed, it requires a police officer response. Currently, there's large periods of time that we have non-certified people that are caring for the well-being of our students and coworkers within the system. That's my presentation.
Questions?
It's Officer Longman, is it?
Longman, yes.
Longman. I'm just curious whether we maintain data on the kind of incidents that require response by security police.
That's a great question. We are in the process of obtaining a comprehensive records management system. We do not currently have real reliable data. We do have to submit federal reports to the U.S. Department of Education. We do that, but on our day-to-day calls for service, it's very individualized. We go from some Excel spreadsheets to a little bit more robust. So, sir, right now we don't have the data for you.
Okay. And on the national level, you showed some statistics here that related to all the different campuses nationwide. And I was curious if they maintain data to support the figures that they have, where they're guided by those figures as well.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And is that, I'm sure that plays a factor in whether they have 1 to 1,000 or 1 to 800 or 1 to 3,000. Do you have any comments on that?
The one comment, and I spent 34 years with the Arizona Department of Public Safety, and then was the police chief at the University of Northern Colorado for a couple of years, so I really got my kind of baptism into collegiate policing in Colorado. And, you know, what you saw with all those other collegiate police departments is every single one of them is a full-service police department. They already have the infrastructure, and we're still operating as a quasi-security department. So we're in the process of fixing that. We're just about ready to get our records management system. So in the future, when you ask me that, or any of the college presidents, I will be able to give very accurate data on the number, the types of crimes, how many calls for service, the variety of call for services. We just don't have the infrastructure to be able to do that. And that's why the committee, and then in consultation with Vice Chancellor Thompson, we're very comfortable with that. This staffing that still doesn't even bring us to the Pima Community College, but it will get us closer, and I believe that once we have the infrastructure in place with our communication system that'll go district-wide, our records management system, and so forth, that we'll have better data to know whether that is the appropriate staffing or whether we need to come back someday for more.
And I believe one of the figures out there you mentioned, RPS, I don't know what that stood for, but there's some kind of aides that are involved in at least inquiring into some of the incidents that happen. What's the kind of cases or the kind of situations that would be relegated to those folks versus a regular police officer? Okay.
Typically, so we have two levels. We have our certified police officers that are all Arizona state certified police officers. And then we have our what we call our public safety aides. And as you visit your colleges, they're typically wearing a blue golf shirt. And we have board approved, so they're full-time employees, but the majority of them are part-time employees. And for years and years, and we currently still rely a great deal on, in essence, minimum wage, minimally trained individuals kind of for the safety and well-being at our colleges. So really the only thing that they're authorized to do is to observe and report. We use them for patrolling in the parking lots to try and help deter vandalisms, thefts that might occur there. They help us a great deal on unlocking doors, checking buildings, and so forth. You know, one of the challenges we have, though, if we have our public safety aides on duty in the evening and we don't have police officers, it's wrong for us to send an unarmed, untrained person to do a building check, and that's currently what we're doing.
Yeah, and I realize there's a liability aspect to it. That's a concern to the public. I guess that was one other question I had for you. Is there any thought? I mean, how does this incorporating or utilizing metal detecting kind of stations at any locations in the district? Was that part of the discussion that took place at all?
Really, the only thing that we're using are the handheld, the wands, and they're on very specific cases. In fact, at one of our colleges, we had a student conduct hearing that we had safety concerns, and we used the metal wands. You know, our challenge in higher education, and everyone here knows as well or better than I do, is for the learning purpose, we are an open environment. So unlike a K through 12, where it's reasonably easy to lock down, control access, that just isn't the learning environment in higher education. So it would be an enormous challenge and an enormous cost to try and have metal detectors strategically located. I don't even know how we would do that.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Going back to the discussion of blue shirts, I call them, they do give parking tickets, by the way. But is there a ratio of certified policemen to a blue shirt, or I know you use them as kind of your first line, and I totally agree with your concerns about having them in a position where they can't do anything, where they should have some ability to do something. Do you see a need to improve or increase the size of that group of staff as well?
Part of our recommendation is to reduce our reliance on our part-time staff, the part-time blue shirts, really utilize our board-approved. The best way for me to address that is give you some anecdotal information. So typically on our shift 3, it's a graveyard shift. That's who we have working. And Debbie has heard me say that to me too many times. I'm sorry, Vice Chancellor Thompson. We give keys to our kingdom to a minimum wage, minimally trained employee, that if something bad happens to one of our properties, it really hurts our ability to deliver the education to our students. I mean, we could have enormous vandalism, enormous theft. So, I think we need people that we can depend on. So I've talked to my commanders for the past year. If they want to have 2 part-timers show up, they'll schedule 4 to hope that they get 2 to show up. And it's just the nature of the business. So our recommendation from public safety is that we reduce our reliance on the part-time. We structure our board-approved, our full-time employees to better serve us. The blue shirts, also referred to them as blue shirts, they do provide a service to us. They're really great for monitoring our surveillance cameras. We have a very robust surveillance system within the district, and truly that's a force multiplier, so we don't need as many police officers as some of the other locations. In fact, the university I came from, we did not have as robust surveillance system. I actually needed more officers. So the numbers we're giving very, very conservative, but I think our public safety aides are really great for helping on kind of the routine matters and to be our eyes and ears, but they should not be used to contact individuals, particularly if there's a violence potential.
I just, having been on campuses and you see them, it kind of gives you a feeling of if something was observed that wasn't right, I could go to them and they get to you, so that there's a chain.
Yes.
I think they play a role, and besides parking tickets, that benefit the safety of our students.
Yes.
Second, a while back we had some news channels that decided that we didn't need police officers, or we're duplicating efforts with the local law enforcement. I understand that we have 2 different roles that policemen play. In the municipal world, they're required to do investigations on domestic violence and so forth. Do you see any need for your staff to go off campus to investigate issues that we currently rely on local law enforcement to do for us, or we do for them?
Well, first we have a wonderful working relationship with all of our municipal partners. My deputy in chief and we meet with the police chiefs and police command staff from the other municipal departments on a routine basis. So we foster that. We have a really good relationship. Statutorily and legally, we have the ability to exert our original jurisdiction to investigate crimes that occur on our properties. Because of our police officer staffing level, as a practical matter, we don't do that. We rely on our municipal partners. But that also adds to part of our disparity, because depending on what community we're in, even in some of the larger police department jurisdictions, even in the precinct that our college is in, we're going to get a different level of service where I think the board, and make an assumption, our students and our employees should have a reasonable expectation on the delivery of really all of our services. It fits within the one Maricopa, so that if somebody is the victim of a crime, they have a reasonable expectation that it's going to be investigated properly, it's going to be addressed properly, that will respect the victim's rights and so forth. So we can do that. But what the comparisons that we made there, and we just haven't quite launched into that within Maricopa, and that is every one of those are a full-service police department. Even though we will always have to rely on our municipal partners on some cases. We're never going to have our bomb squad, we're never going to have a SWAT team and those kind of things. But for the day-to-day things that happen, we need that kind of staffing to be able to keep our students, our visitors, and our employees safe.
Yeah, and I think in terms of my time in local government, if you arrest somebody, you've got to have a place to set them. We don't have, in my knowledge, anywhere on any of our campus, jail. We might have a room that has been designated as a holding cell of some kind, but I don't want to see us duplicating those facilities if it's not necessary to do so.
Mr. Slaughter, I don't want to own jails anyways. I don't want to do that to the chancellor or my CEC colleagues up front. We don't need that. There's a lot of things that we're going to be able to develop with our records management system that we'll be able to address, and we'll still rely on our municipal partners to help us when somebody needs to go to jail, the transports. But we have no business withholding facilities in an educational institution. I agree with you, sir.
My final question really has to do with what the public has communicated to the district in terms of how they feel about their safety. I know Tony's going to have a heart attack, but how many complaints or how many good things have the comments that you've heard come from staff, from students? Are we there? Do they feel a need for more? What are your feelings on that?
I don't think it's fair for me to. I don't know what they're saying.
Well, I'd like to at some point in this process of approving the new hires just get a feel for what our staff and students have had problems with, and is this going to help solve some of those?
Yes, sir.
I have some questions. Are you talking about covering all the sites for Rio Salado? There's 17 of them?
One of the things that we're doing within public safety is really embracing the one Maricopa concept, and so that we don't think in a proprietary sense on where our police officers patrol. An example will be Rio Salado. You have the strip mall that's very close to Mesa Community College. If we were staffed adequately at Mesa Community College, then throughout the shifts, a police officer, and it really doesn't matter where they come from, so we will have a police patrol and response from the closest site. So it's not our intent to have a police officer at all 17 Rio sites, but to have police officers, adequate staffing at all of our colleges so that we can deploy officers on routine patrol to respond there and just to visit.
A lot of our sites aren't very big, and let's say if we're a business and I had a police problem, I call the police, right? If I'm a bigger business, I might have a security officer that just eyes and ears, and they call the police. Why are we needing a $55,000 a year officer and a vehicle to do that?
Well, one of the first responses is it's an industry standard. You're not going to find public-funded institutions that don't have their own police department. There are research just in the Southwest United States, and even here in Arizona, the colleges, the universities have their own police department. We are a political subdivision. We have the authority to have a police department. And again, when I referred to being in 12 different jurisdictions, if we don't have our own police department, then you're going to get potentially 12 different responses on the level of police services depending on where the particular college or facility is located. So there's some practical reasons why.
But don't get me wrong. I totally support the idea of protecting our students, having a police force present. Now I'm struggling with the $2 million additional cost, because that money can be in the classroom with the students who are dropping out and not being successful. So I have other questions, like more use of cameras, and are we just include purchasing of some vehicles now too? And
we currently have a very robust video surveillance system. We had the opportunity.
Every time I was reading the reports from robberies, it all said, "Well, we didn't have a camera in that area."
Yeah.
And even like in South Mountain, where there was actually a shooting, and there's still no camera in that place where the shooting was, right?
I believe there is now, but
in the Commons, community Commons. Right.
And we recently purchased patrol vehicles, so each of our colleges will have a patrol vehicle that'll serve as a visual deterrent. It'll allow ability if we have to redeploy police officers. We are on occasion having situations where we're having to move police officers from one college to another college to address situations, but what that does is it necessarily shorts the college that contributes police officers to help us out for a day or a couple of days.
I was able to tour. I think it was about a year ago. I went to Glendale North and being a new school. They had some awesome cameras. I mean, they're sitting there in this little room, and they have all these cameras all over campus. And I think even there was an incident where they were able to even see the license plate, somebody that broke in during the weekend. So I like to see, how do we balance this out with more cameras, less officers, more technology, less staff?
I think we always need to embrace the technology and leverage the technology. We're still going to need a armed police response, and we've seen too many bad events happen across the nation, and really what is going to stop it is going to be an immediate armed police response, and that's the value added that your police department, your police officers provide, is that we train our officers. They know that they have to immediately go to the threat. They have to stop the threat, and that's what we provide. If we rely on our municipal partners, they will get there, but there's going to be a significant delay. And as a side note, as I'm visiting with my colleagues in the municipal departments, they're struggling with staffing needs. They have a lot of parents and constituents, as you might imagine, that are demanding a better police presence within their schools, and they're struggling to provide that. So every one of our municipal partners are always going to be there to help us, but they're not going to staff our properties with their police officers. They just can't afford to do it.
Thank you.
Going back to the questions here, or you made some comments regarding the response from municipalities to assist if you have an incident. Do we get a bill for that?
No.
Oh, okay. I consider the community colleges a little bit different. We're not really an entity that's located in a certain geographical area, which I think lends itself more to a police department, because we have 10 campuses or number of campuses that we have. But I'm wondering whether a better approach, or did you consider the approach of a closer working relationship with municipalities, along with what Mr. Lumps mentioned about technology, because perhaps technology can address a lot of the issues of threats, both staff and students on the campus, because the price tag here is what I think we're concerned with, is whether that's the best allocation, and keeping in mind the fact that safety is utmost consideration. But these incidents that have happened nationally, I think what spurs a lot of people and raises a lot of concerns for everybody, those in a different context than the community colleges have faced. So I don't know if you have any comments on that. I just thought I'd make that.
Across the nation, there have been events occur, tragic events at even community colleges. The description up there was including our colleagues. Pima Community College is a much smaller, but similarly they have institutions spread out through Pima County. We look at San Diego community colleges, Los Angeles community colleges. So they have the same geographic challenges that we do. Talking to my colleagues in as far away as Florida, Texas, and so forth, it's not just the 4-year research residential that have police departments. The government-funded or the public institutions, whether they're 2-year or 4-year, have that particular police presence. And I do assure the board and CEC that we do everything we can to foster a good working relationship with our municipal police, fire, EMS partners, but they are not going to staff police officers on our property. So, unless we address some of the minimum staffing levels, I can't make assurances that we will have police officers at your colleges when you have students and when you're open for business. In this particular model, we weren't even suggesting a 24/7 coverage. So we're the committee and we're trying to respect that this is a very expensive proposition. It would be even more if I were coming to you saying, I want to have police officers, around the clock, 365 days a year. I respect the fiscal impact that has on our students.
I think there's a vacuum that was left by the lack of data, and because it's like someone that got the Emeritus Scholar Award earlier said, I was always interested in data. Show me the data. And so without showing data, it's for me as a board member, I just have a difficult time seeing where the need is and with the type of need. Because on a campus, when you have an incident, I don't think every incident is the kind that requires an immediate response. If you have a broken window or somebody stole something, those allow for more response time than obviously someone that's in a more dangerous type of scenario in a classroom. So that's, any reaction to that?
No, I agree. I wish I had the data.
Okay.
I don't.
Any other comment? Thanks, Mr. Long. We appreciate the information. And the board is sensitive to public safety, so this is a significant issue that we face, and we will give it every consideration. Thank you.
Respect what you do, and thanks for all the good work you and your officers do for us.
Thank you.
Thank you, officer.
Ms. Thompson?
At this time, we have another presentation from Lauren Schellenberger on the seamless student experience.
President Burke, members of the board, Chancellor Glasper, CEC colleagues, and guests, thank you for the opportunity to provide you an update on the accomplishments and the continuing directions of the Student Seamless Experience. My colleague, Dr. Paul Dale, President of Paradise Valley Community College, and Dr. Lauren Schellenberger, Vice President of Seamless Student Experience, and I will provide you a brief update on the activities of the SSE. What we will share with you this evening is what has been accomplished, what will happen in the near future, how the Seamless Student Experience is critically linked to the CS9 implementation and update, what we have on the horizon with the SSE, what impact it will have for our students, and also a brief description of some of the costs for the budget. What's been accomplished so far? We have standardized enrollment cancellation process. This includes fee payment, due dates, and processes associated with enrollment. Now, this means all 10 colleges are now doing it the same way. Rio, with the exception of Rio, who has about 52 different start dates, so there are different colleges. But just briefly, what that also meant was that recently in December, there were 20,698 students who had not paid their fees. Through a standardized enrollment date, we were able to implement a quick call system, and 18,578 of these were able to be contacted and notified about their pending enrollment and that they would be dropped if they hadn't been able to complete their enrollment process. 8,212 of these took advantage of that and either came in, paid their fees, made a down payment, or initiated a process to get awarded. And this avoided a tremendous amount of classes enrollment cancellations and allowing our students to be on that road to student success. Also, we eliminated dropping students for non-payment after the refund period. On December 17th, mymaricopa.edu went live. Hopefully you've had an opportunity to go out and look at the website and the cleaner use of information that had been tested with our students. A single identity has been implemented that uses the MEID, the Maricopa Enterprise ID, and the password. Therefore, students will have the same login when they're on campus, but also when they bring their mobile application, as many students now do. We list there that we've also hired and are bringing on staff people to develop the training. We've identified that training is going to be extremely critical for us to be able to implement the seamless student experience, so we've engaged the employment of some people to develop the training that will go in sequence and hand with the SSC. But also another important thing, what we've been instituted is a Maricopa Student Loan Default Management Plan. We're wanting to work more effectively with our students to make them more knowledgeable, to communicate with them about what happens to them if they do default on their loans. So we're trying to encourage them to not get in as large a debt, because that's something that they will never be able to get rid of if they don't pay it back. So that's what's been accomplished. And the next group of activities we're calling high-value projects, and these are underway. We're getting ready to outsource financial aid verification. The reason we're doing that is because there isn't a consistent delivery model of how the colleges have been responding to the verification. Some just send the information to the student via email and hopes that the student will respond back to us. It could take anywhere up to 6 weeks during peak time for students to get their financial aid verified. So by outsourcing it, they will be communicated with on a regular basis by the vendor, and it'll increase communication and also should increase the number of students who do complete the financial aid verification, thus get to use the financial aid. On February 15th, Paradise Valley and Estrella Mountain went live on a financial aid answer center. We're the first two colleges that will be piloting it, to where when students call, they will be contacted with the financial aid center. I called that service myself February 18th at about 7:30 in the morning just to see if it was working. The phone was answered within 2.5 minutes, and even though I didn't have a financial aid question, I'm sure they would have been able to respond to me. I told them I just wanted to test the system and see if it worked, and somebody did answer it for me. But also, the reason we're phasing this in is, excuse me, I think I went to the wrong one. The reason we're phasing it in is we want the colleges to be able to pilot it and then see what's working, so we can make a smoother phase in for the next colleges as they come online. All of the colleges will be online by May 13th. So 2 of the colleges are actually being involved with it right now. Another one that's coming down the line is, and we've had many students ask for a single scholarship database, one source where they can go get information that's consistent across all the Maricopa colleges, where they can get information about loans, because loans and Pell Grant continue to be the major way they are paying for their course, but we want them to be able to be aware of and to use the scholarships. But one source of information is what we're really seeking with this new database application. Document imaging, that's something that's going to definitely improve services for all of our students, increase efficiency and process time, but also it's required for us to be able to engage the rest of the components of the SSE, which are to allow students to go from one college, to allow us from one college to register for the other colleges if we have all of the documents that will be available once we do get a document imaging system. Additionally, allow us to reduce the amount of paperwork. But one of the things that we're very much aware of is the SSE is extremely dependent upon the partnership and the linkage to the CS9 implementation, and Dr. Dale will talk about that.
Thank you, Dr. Lara. I'm going to have to call that number myself tonight when I get out of this board meeting to see if they're answering at 10 o'clock tonight. So it's my pleasure to update you very quickly on the progress that we're making on converting the current SIS system, which is no longer going to be supported by Oracle, to the CS9 upgrade. Gay Murphy has already alluded to this earlier tonight in her presentation. And as was suggested, is that in order to go to this seamless student experience, which will allow a student a single admissions, a single registration process, the architecture for the current SIS system needs to be modified or updated from basically 10 separate architectures to a single architecture, which then would allow a student, if they were going to come to my college, to enroll to a Maricopa college, and then if they were going to take additional courses at Rio, they wouldn't have to be admitted again to Rio Salado. They'd just simply be admitted to Maricopa, which we know makes quite a bit of sense given the number of students that are co-enrolled each semester in one of the Maricopa colleges. So as we change the academic structure, as I said, there will be opportunities for a single student transcript. So when a student requests transcripts to go to ASU, they're not going to request a transcript from Rio, from PV, from Glendale. It will be simply a single transcript to go out to their transfer institution. Again, as Dr. Lars indicated, this will allow us to have a single financial aid model and business process, and then, as I've indicated, a single admissions process. Later on tonight, Dr. Webster will update you in the progress made for the planning. Several board meetings ago, you approved funds to begin that planning process for the implementation of CS9, Campus Solutions 9, which will upgrade our SIS system. And then by the end of that, there will be a complete plan with all the costs identified for that upgrade. The next slide here just shows the importance of the backbone of CS9, the new student information system. As you see, that system is the heartbeat, the center spoke of a student portal, of the document imaging that allows a centralized document imaging program that allows all of us to access that across the 10 colleges. As Dr. Lars indicated, it's also the backbone of all the standardized processes so that students experience the same process at the same school and the same methodology. Again, I've already talked about the single student record. And then we have a new group working, again, which was alluded to a little bit earlier tonight in the budget presentation, looking at ways to remarkably change the way we outreach to student with a customer relation management system, CRM, which would allow for things like a single prospect database. It would allow us to track the efficacy of our recruitment efforts. It would allow us to share prospects across campus. It would allow us to track the behavior of the students as they go through that admissions process. So again, as you see, the CS9 upgrade is pivotal to implement these complementary processes. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Schoenbarger, and she's going to, I'm turning it back to Dr. Lara. Yeah.
Thank you. You can tell this is well rehearsed. As Dr. Dale just alluded, the implementation of the SSE is critically linked to the implementation of CS9. But what that really will do for us, it will bring us to be able to do why we initially went into this process, which was to improve the student experience. Once we have the new implementation system through the CS9, we will be able to go back and create single business processes that will be used for financial aid at all of our colleges. That's one of the critical things that's going to happen. We're going to be able to standardize the admission process. We've always talked about, but almost like a dream or a fantasy, where we said we would be able to have a student come to Estrella Mountain and say they wanted to register with us, but tell us that they worked near Phoenix College and what was available there at night, and then we could register them for that and also take their fees. So those are part of what we're looking forward to do. So that's the cross-college registration. We've also talked about being able to provide you one transcript. Many of our students, and we've identified them as a swirling student who goes from college to college, but when they transfer someplace, they also have to go from college to get their transcript sent. This would eliminate that and just have one college that would be a Maricopa Community College district transcript that would report all of their work on a single source. Dr. Dale just alluded to the customer relationship manager. We want to be able to work more effectively rather than competitively when we're out seeking the students. We want them to attend any of the Maricopa colleges, but we're well aware that retention begins with an intentional working with the student to get them into the right institution. So we're not competing to get the student to a specific, but where is it that you want to go? And new customer relationship management will allow us to do that. Also on the horizon will be a new portal that will be implemented in the spring of 2014 in conjunction with the CS9, and this portal will be a personalized student experience. That's part of what we've been looking for. It will consolidate student messaging, including email, the learning management system, and the SIS message center. Basically, what it's going to implement for our students is a user-friendly access to the common tasks that they're used to, registration, their records, financial aid. They will be able to manage that. So those are the things that are on their horizon, but also we realize that one of the most important components to be successful on the horizon is training, training, and training. We want to make sure that our employees are well prepared to deliver these services for our students. Now what I'll do is bring up Dr. Schellenbarger. We'll talk about some of the impact that the SSE will have on our students, and also a picture of what the budget looks like.
Thank you. The major issue with SSE, or the major reason, was to eliminate registration and financial aid barriers so that students can focus on learning. They can choose what college they want to attend based on the programs that the college offers and not based on who processed their financial aid faster or if they got their questions answered. So that's one of the main impacts. But there's also some big numbers involved. Basically, the average number of students impacted would be every student. So that's 250,347 students. And approximately 10% of those at any one time are attending more than one Maricopa college. And I just heard a statistic that 80% of all people who've attended a Maricopa college throughout the history of Maricopa colleges have attended more than one Maricopa college during that time. So I know I've attended 5. So and probably if we did a little survey in here, we'd find a lot more. We receive over 350,000 financial aid applications and correction forms per year that have to be processed or looked at. And almost 80,000 of them are selected for the verification process. So as you can see, the numbers are really huge of our students that are impacted.
May I interrupt? What does it mean that that number was selected for verification?
The federal government chooses students supposedly randomly, but we know it's not, to have their files verified. So it's more additional information that's required.
Why is it not random?
I'm sorry?
You said it's not at random.
It has been at random before, but now there's actually triggers in the system that will address it.
So it's not. What the triggers are?
I'm sorry?
Do we know what the triggers are?
They have kept that a secret, the federal government.
Okay.
But it usually has to do with things on the level of income and all that. So.
Thanks.
You're welcome. So This last semester, we dispersed over $135 million in financial aid. So we have a lot of students relying on a lot of financial aid. And since we went live with the My.Maricopa site, we have actually had over 700,000 unique visits, and I believe it was 4 million separate page hits. All right? Yes. So that's a lot of people seeing our site, which is good. We send out over 120,000 transcripts every year, and over 31,000 of the students on average attended more than one college. So, and we evaluate over 25,000 transcripts per year. So we do a lot of transactions with our students, and we assist the students quite a bit. And so a lot of what we're doing is to impact this. So as we look at the costs, the estimated capital investment, so these are the one-time costs, through the implementation plan of June 2015, which is when the project is supposed to be, our initiatives are over, is about $9.3 million. And this includes the document imaging, it includes the portal, the knowledge base, the CRM project, and other projects like training and single sign-on and things like that. The ones that are in blue are more estimates because we are still in the planning process on those projects. The annual operating costs are as follows. Currently, it's about $900,000 per year for our development team that was working on all of this, and the training team. There's also costs for training team and other. But the overall project operating costs for 2014, we're looking at about $3.8 million, and I believe that was in the presentation earlier. And that goes for the Answer Center and financial aid verification training expenses, default management, document imaging, portal, all of those things. So those are all the operating costs to make all of those things happen as we move forward with the SSE. And so that's...
Now, 2015, is that this process will be implemented by 2015? Is that the case?
That is our project plan, is that the SSE will go away in 2015, but everything that we have implemented will have been transitioned to various locations.
Great, thanks.
The cost per student, it's kind of hard to calculate because we've had lots of students over the time period you're talking. Will we see a lesser cost per student than we're currently paying? Is that part of the goal too?
Let's see. I'm trying to figure out how to answer that question. I'm not sure I know how to answer that question.
Those same functions that students are using currently cost money?
I see.
I might just jump in real quick.
You.
I think what we're going to see is greater efficiency, so that when you have centralized verification of financial aid files, we're going to do it obviously much more quickly, but we're going to be able to do it at a cheaper cost per file than we're doing it spread out amongst the 10 colleges. The call center, in terms of being able to respond to students in a much more timely fashion, I believe we're going to be more efficient and more effective. So in order to calculate that question, we have to actually add up all the cost of all the financial aid offices and then disaggregate the work that they're doing by function, which is really difficult to do, although we did do a rough estimate of that at one time.
I'm not looking at exact price. I'm just looking, do we see it being not only more efficient, but at a lesser cost?
We're hoping that that's what we were planning on. But the other part that not only be the efficiencies, we're also saying if people will be, if our staff are no longer having to do some of these initial answer questions or the verification, those that we do have will be able to be working more effectively with students to keep them engaged with their learning projects. Also to be talking about the financial aid management, their debt, so that hopefully they, in the long term, also won't be walking away with as much debt, but which hopefully will also allow them to complete, which supports a completion agenda.
It strikes me that this be much more efficient for students.
Absolutely. And what we discovered in a study we did this summer was that we have a lot of employees who do a lot of things, but very few that do just one thing, and so it's really hard to say, well, you'll need less people because they're doing 10 things. And then, so we're thinking that that's probably not going to happen in that way, but probably a lot more things will be able to happen to help students.
Just I think Mr. Sar asked the question regarding, I guess, the cost savings, basically. I think that's what we're getting at. But this has a $9.3 million tag, right? That's what I saw. And I'm wondering if there's any possibility the system, will not function as the way we're predicting it, and we'll end up with something that just didn't suit our purposes. And I know this is like apples and oranges, but Flagstaff just recently invested a lot of money into a waste treatment system out there, and it's not producing what they wanted it to. So I'm wondering, I know this is technology, and it's technology focused and centered, but I'm just wondering have anybody done any projections in terms of what the cost savings is? I know that it should produce a more efficient system and a better service for the student, but as far as what our cost savings is to the district, will it replace personnel that are no longer needed?
To answer that question, I think it might be a little premature to answer it, but what I can tell you is that we rely heavily on part-time staff. We rely heavily on student workers. We rely heavily on the RPS workers that were mentioned earlier with the public safety, which is people that are on time card. And so the service that we're providing isn't being, we don't have enough full-time staff to provide the level of service that we need. So there is an opportunity potentially to reduce the number of part-time staff that we would need to support, but there are many things that the financial aid offices, the missions and records offices, the advisors can be doing to help student success that are not necessarily able to do right now because they're bogged down in a lot of the procedural processes. So it's very hard to say that there'll be a huge savings in the number of employees, but there definitely will be there is a different way of looking at what our staff are doing to support students.
Also, additionally, an important portion of this cost was in one-time monies in the infrastructure. We have to buy a lot of this for the cost of the hardware for document imaging, so those are one-time costs that we would have needed to purchase no matter what we've done, even if we hadn't done this, if we just adopted a document imaging process.
And then just switching over to another part of the presentation, the one on scholarship data, that portion of it, is this for students that are already enrolled, or is access to that service for students that are anticipating enrolling, or in other words, seniors in high school?
Yes, thank you for asking the question, because we're right in the process of planning that right now. And we're looking at what population of students would be able to access it. And yes, it would be for students that are potential students or that are going to be coming in to school so that they can fill out the application, and then it can be used to make the decision as to whether or not this is an appropriate place for them to be. So yes, definitely we would be encouraging the seniors in high school to fill it out, and also returning students and all that. And it's for all college and district-held scholarships.
And I also think it's an excellent recruitment tool, because if you can draw a student on a campus as a senior, come on the campus to apply, he's going to look at the campus, he's going to be attracted to it. You know, from my experiences, we're losing, when we lose students to private colleges and universities, we lose them because sometimes they just don't know that the community college system offers the same type of education, and probably in most cases a higher quality one, and definitely at a lower cost. I mean, that recruitment, that is an excellent recruitment tool. I think it ought to be incorporated into the marketing part of it.
Definitely will be incorporated that way.
Thank you.
Any other question?
President
Thank you very
Burke,
much.
would you allow us real quickly, as a privilege, just to introduce the team that's here that do a lot of this work. They stand and be acknowledged too. Ben and Jonathan and Joni, I'm sorry. If they just be acknowledged for all their hard work on their behalf.
Thank you.
Mr. President, members of the board, let me make just a couple of comments before we introduce the next speaker. When we entered into this journey approximately 2 years ago or so, I had these visions of where we were going to be analyzing staffing at each of our colleges. We'd go to a single process in financial aid and admissions and so forth, and that there would accrue some savings on the other side. As Dr. Schallenberger has said, we have found that people are doing multiple jobs. But what I'm still visioning here is that we may not have any immediate savings that would accrue because people are not doing one job, but they're now moving from 5 jobs or 3 jobs to a lesser number of jobs. But I want to remind everyone of the focus that we're moving to in terms of the completion agenda and our ability to address retention. We spent so much time in terms of access. Our enrollment over the last few years, especially with the recession, we were in a 2 to 3 year period where our enrollment went up 33,000 students. And now we're starting to see our enrollment go down about 2%, 3%. So we're coming out of the recession. So we're trying to figure out what does that mean. But historically, we have had a attrition rate of close to 60%. Each year we're getting a different student that's coming in. Our focus here is to now have our staff be able to not have to deal with items of verification manually or whatever. We can utilize the system. We won't have to shut down a financial aid office while we do some other work in another part of the system. And we can spend time tutoring and managing and focusing on this notion of retention. Because I believe that it costs us 3 times as much money to go out and try to recruit a new student as it costs us to keep one. And if we can move in that direction, I'm hoping that our attrition rate will begin to reduce to something that's more manageable and reasonable. And if we can go from 60% to 50%, or keep it into some place that's manageable, I think our completion numbers will grow, and then we can focus on moving those students into job placement, tracking that data, and try to make sure that we can look through the entire cycle. So there is a total cost of, and this is one of Mr. Sarr's terms that I know we're going to be getting into with the IT, but the total cost of ownership for us in terms of how we manage a student who comes into our system and then eventually moves out to work. And I think it's incumbent upon us to get an opportunity to invest the resources, both one time and ongoing, and decide if we can make a material impact in terms of the number of students. Once the population starts to come in, starts to grow in the valley, I would hope that we don't get caught up in the fact that we were growing at a rate of 5 to 7% a year. And our focus was on trying to treat every new student that came in and not having sufficient resources to actually put the emphasis on that attrition rate. So our focus will move forward, but student completion along the entire continuum of access, completion, and access, retention, and completion should be our ultimate goal. So I'm excited about where we are. I think the team has done an excellent job. And this is probably the single largest initiative in this district that has pulled more folks together under this notion of one Maricopa. And you hear the themes that are going through policing and others. And if we can stop looking at our institution in 11 different silos and start looking at it as a system, then you will find other efficiencies and reallocation of resources that would allow us to continue our growth and minimize increases that we might need from other resources.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you. With that, I would like to ask John Webster to come up and give the last presentation on IT.
It's F5 if you want to punch the key to make it start. It's F5. Sorry. Good evening, everyone. Let's try that again. Pleasure to be here tonight. President Burke, members of the board, CEC, folks I work with every day, and folks I rely on every day. It's actually a lot of fun to be where we're at. Just as a little side note, I've been here 6 months or so, something like that. Time has absolutely flown by. We've been incredibly busy. We've got a lot of things done, got a lot of things yet to do, but I will tell you this, it's an exciting place to be, it's an exciting place to work. I don't have a chance to get out to the campuses as much as I would like to. I was out at a campus, I think it was yesterday, old age, and it was a blast, absolutely a blast, and I really am sort of jealous of you, of the president sitting around the table. You get to be there every day, and you get to see all the really cool things you do, and I don't get a chance to do that, so it's great to be out on the campus and see where all these great things are taking place. So if we could, I would like to spend a few minutes this evening. I've got like 80 or 90 slides I'd like to go through. Just kidding, it's more like about 75. talk about the transformation plan. There we go. This is something we're not going to go through. It is what we have been working on the last few months as an organization, and it really is the story of us. It's the story of where we started. It's the story of the things that we found back in the summer. It's the story of the things that we did immediately to help the organization deal with some issues it was dealing with. And now it's the story of where we're at today and where we're going. And so the past is the past. We're here today, and we're at something we call the modernization phase of this transformation plan. And so we're going to talk a little bit about that in a few more minutes. But this is a lot of investment of people's time, a lot of research, a lot of data is in here. And I think it's just really a nice way of us sharing with others what we've done so far and where we're going. So quickly, if we could, let's go to the agenda. And the agenda is about planning the future, current state of the ITS group, transforming the organization, information technology services support needs, because that's always on everyone's mind, and then questions. So we've got 4 main areas to walk through, and I'll try to walk through it rather quickly. Feel free to interrupt me if there's something that you don't understand. I've got lots and lots of information I can share as required. So quickly, the future. I was just reading an article from, I believe it was Sunday, in the Arizona Republic, about how folks in the area are having a challenge hiring IT folks, and so we're no different. Everyone is faced with this problem of who do we need. There's a lot of competition out there. I think if you'd look around the U.S. right now, you'd see about 30 plus of these large projects taking place similar to what we're doing, and so there's a huge competition for folks at that level. But there's a competition for folks who are out there looking for IT. Do we need database folks, developer folks, all these kinds of jobs, and this is local. So it's the local area, it's the local community, and I think it's an article that really calls out the fact that we're in the same situation as everyone else. We're not unique. I mean, we are unique, as we say, but it's not unique to us. It's a common problem among lots of folks. Technology is changing. That's just a given fact. It's going to change every day. Because there's money in change, and so we have to be ready to accept that change, and we have to also be ready to use that change. Now, the question that is posed to me is, are we just changing for change's sake? And the answer is no. We're changing when change is essential to our business. So as strategies are developed, whether it's a recruitment strategy, a retention strategy, or some other strategy that's important to Maricopa, then we want to make sure we leverage the right technology, and not just the technology that we think, we need to look, we'll do the investigation, but we'll leverage the right technology, whether that technology is a cloud solution, whether that technology is an on-premise solution, whether that technology is a subscription service or some hybrid. So we want to look at the technology. It is changing, and there are lots of options out there. We will avail ourselves of those options. The other thing, of course, as I just said, is the software deployment options. There are lots of new solutions, different ways of delivering them, where you don't require the infrastructure that what we typically had. There are what we call the SaaS models, software as a service models, the cloud models, private clouds, public clouds, all kinds of clouds. Every cloud you get has a different sort of lining. Some are silver, some are gold. We have a need in the way our students learn as well, the way our students do business with us. We want to make sure that we are meeting their needs, whether that's social networking, whether that's distance delivery, whether it's collaborative learning. We just want to make sure that the services that we're providing to the students are the right services, and we have the right technology to deliver that. And of course, then we want to make sure we can deliver services to other groups. So if we get a request, and we were in a conversation with a group the other day, how do we integrate with you? How do we go from us to you to them? How do we track them along the way? Are we going to build a system? Is our system going to integrate with your system? And our answer is absolutely. We want to be at the table with you. We want to make sure that our versions match up, that our services and your services have the same touch points. So we want to be there in the future with these folks. And so as we make these investments, we want to not just think about us, but we want to think about our reach, because our reach is massive. So we want to bring students in. We want to get them through our system. We want to push them out, get them jobs. It's just the big circle of life, so to speak. And I find it interesting, and incidentally, when I'm out in the community, a lot of folks ask, what do you do? I said, Maricopa, and I am amazed how many people are either students or have been students, have been here, and the reasons. And they just say, oh, I went to this school, I went to this school. I went there because it was less expensive. Instead of paying $2,000 to go to College X, I took it from your organization. It saved me a lot of money, and it transferred right through. So there's a lot of reasons. But the point is, we have a huge reach, and a lot of different folks who are looking to us for services, and that's what we're here for, is to service it. So looking for the future, there's a lot of things that we need to be looking for and readying ourselves for. So at the end of the day, as they say, what does the future mean? I said, for us, it really is this opportunity for this organization to develop a technologically innovative, forward-acting services organization, provide world-class support and services to students, improve students' educational experiences, and their opportunity to succeed. So it's sort of academic sounding, but I think the academic piece will drive how we run our organization. If these are our goals, if these are our measures of success, have we in fact become that world-class organization? Are we forward-acting? Not forward-thinking, but forward-acting. Are we technologically innovative? If we are, if we're doing these things, then I think we're being successful and we're meeting the needs of our students. So, what's the current state? Current state of ITS is we've got some issues. Got a lot of work in front of us. Everyone's going to be busy for a while. But I think the truth is the folks that I work with every day, the folks that I see in the hallways, upstairs, downstairs, in the kitchens, they're a good team, good heart. They're working hard. They're oversubscribed, which is we're always trying to find that nice way to say someone's working really, really hard, maybe too hard, so now they're oversubscribed. Willing hands, ready to address the needs in front of us. And so that being said, I think we have a good foundation in terms of spirit to move forward. We're going to have to start addressing, and we are addressing, our aging infrastructure and technology. Some of our systems are undersized. When you look at the numbers, and I think the My Maricopa is an excellent example, all of a sudden you're talking about hundreds of thousands of people in this system, just bang, 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 bang. How is that system assured that it's safe, it's secure, someone can't hack into that system? How do we make sure that we've got enough horsepower to run that system? Is there redundancy for that system? So all of these are really complex IT questions, have nothing to do at all with the look and feel of the system, has nothing to look with the content, but we want to make sure that the infrastructure is such that it can manage it. So we're looking at systems that have got some age on them, getting a little long in the tooth. I will say we've got our money's worth out of them. They were good investments, and they've returned a good interest on those investments. But the reality is we're not quite capable of running new solutions, or I should say we're not capable. We need to make the investment in technology, making sure that we have the next generation of hardware the right size to service the needs of our students. We have a technical, functional, and other skills gap in our teams. As I said, they're good folks. They're working hard. They haven't had the time to really keep their skills abreast with the technology. And there are technical skills, but there are other skills as well. There's business analyst type skills, there's functional skills. If we're doing something in the human resource area, we have to understand from a functional perspective what it is the business user is trying to do, because we don't own the solution. I mean, the fact is HR is owned by an individual or a group of individuals. They make decisions on business processes. What we do then is we go back and we try to replicate those, or we don't actually try, we replicate those processes in the technology. They test it, so it's this really neat relationship. But many times the functional folks are talking about something, the technical folks are talking about something, and we want to make sure that we can work to bring these two folks together. And so I say, walk a mile in my shoes, I'll walk a mile in your shoes, in the middle we'll understand each other. So we want to make sure that we don't just focus on technical, but we focus on the other skills as well. The next piece is the enterprise software systems are approaching an end of life. That was said 2 or 3 times, and that's just a fact, that software at a certain time no longer is supported by the vendor. What does that mean? It means it's not supported by the vendor. It means if it goes down, well, it goes down. If there is a patch required to fix a challenge that came up or a problem that came up, there's not a patch for your system. If the federal regulations change and you have to change your system to meet those federal regulations so you can disperse financial aid, you don't get them. Or if you get them, they won't work. Now, someone can say, well, can we just hire someone to come in and do this? Yes, you can hire someone to come in and do this, but the cost is going to be pretty substantial. And at the end of the day, you say, if I do this for this year, and this year, hire someone to come in and do something special, and I can give you a cost, an estimate. For example, the financial aid piece that we actually just went live with cost us, whatever it was, let's say $500,000. That was a cheap price. Next year, the cost, we'll have to bear the cost on our own. We went to Oracle. Oracle cobbled it together with 5 or 6 other colleges. We shared the cost with these colleges. Well, they've done their upgrades or doing their upgrades. So next year, they're not going to help us share it. Point being is this year it cost us X, next year it's going to cost us X plus whatever that is, and it could be up in the millions of dollars. We just don't know. And Oracle is not in here to help us. They're in the business to make money, and they did this as a quote-unquote favor to us. Point is, these things are going to come to the end of their useful life. They won't be supported, and at that time, we don't want to start thinking about how do we replace them. Staffing shortages, that is just a fact of life. When we ran the data, by the way, Owen back here is the guy who ran the data for us. He took about a month and ran the data. We came up about 30,000 hours short of keeping our systems just up and running on a daily basis. A lot of hours, which means our people are working really, really hard, but they're not getting everything done. It means that we're backfilling them with consultants. We are working overtime. We are working not just our 40-hour weeks or our 50-hour weeks, but we're working beyond that. And I walk around our organization, and I see some tired folks. And it's just not fair to a system, because tired folks can't give us the work we need. And so we want to make sure that we bring in some additional staff, first to replace the staff that we're short on, and then add some additional staff to make sure that we have enough coverage to get the systems up, keep them running, get the updates done to the system, and then have enough available bandwidth to do some other things, like look at new solutions, look at new technologies, and those kind of things. So we do have a bit of a staff shortage, and we would very much like to fill it in, and I know our teams would like to fill it in as well. So how do we address these issues? The current state, the future, how do we address them? And the answer is we're going to start talking about transforming the organization. But the good news is the organization transformation was already in place when I came here back in August, September, something like that. I started, it seems like just the other day, but it was several months ago. George Kakajian had already started on looking at how you transform the organization, and he'd been working with the chancellor, working with the exec team, and that process was started. I was fortunate to come in and be able to pick up the ball, move the ball forward, and so that's what I wanted to share with you in this regard. So we're transforming the organization, and transforming, we're looking at three key things, three key areas. One is our people, because without people you can't do anything. 2 are the processes, in other words, how do we run our business, and 3 is the technology. So we've got these 3 things that we have to address over the next couple of years, and again, we put this into three different unique phases, which is the modernization phase, which is what we're currently in, what we call the alignment phase, and then continuous improvement. And we can talk about those as we move forward and get into depth in those. But when the transformation plan, again, which is those 3 phases, has a number of key activities. We built this roadmap, and those key activities are the specific things that we will do to help train the folks, help manage our processes, help manage our technology, and upgrade our technology. And so what I'm getting to is that the transformation plan is started. It's underway. We have some things that we can look at that we've already done today that are tangible things that we say can be seen, can be measured, and can be shared. And so when I go back and I look at the transformation plan, I can sit down with the exec team and with the chancellor, and they say, here's what you're doing, here's what you should be doing, and, did we succeed, did we not succeed? And we actually have on our plan time, sometime in the May time frame, to sit down with the chancellor and talk about what we've done to date, what we need to be doing, and how we need to modify it. And so we want to be very clear that our plan is not just a plan with a bunch of frilly ideas. It's a detailed plan with some serious activities in it. And I would ask you just to take a moment, and you don't have to do it. But if we look at the modernization plan, in here we talk about some folks that we need. For example, an educational specialist. The educational specialist is currently being contracted. We're looking at a change management lead. We're currently in the contract process. My point being is, I'm just asking you at a future state, anyone who's out here, if it's a president or if it's someone in the community, this is our roadmap. These are our activities. We can put little stars by there and say, in fact, we did do these things and we are doing these things. And that's how you can measure us for success. So people talk about key performance indicators. These are the kind of things we want to be out there as our performance indicators. And this map is hanging on the wall, and our folks walk by it every day. And I will be frank with you. I stop by and look at it and go, that's pretty cool stuff. And I can actually see things that we're doing. So from our team's perspective, this is our map. These are our activities. And the question is, are we doing them? And the answer is yes, we are doing them. So I'm pretty pleased with where we're at. I think everyone is working very hard in the transformation. And over the next year or two, I think we'll see the organization be, it'll change, it'll grow, and it'll be able to meet the needs of the organization, the district, as we move forward. So here's the question I have. We go through this transformation. We train people. We do all this stuff. What's actually going to happen? Well, what's the outcome? I mean, that's the $64 question. Is, okay, John, you want to transform it, you're doing it, what's the outcome? Well, the outcome is we're going to address our web services. We want to make sure the infrastructure is refreshed, it's strengthened, it can handle the 1 million unique visitors, the 4 million hits it's going to get. We want to make sure that we have the data storage capabilities that we need to make sure we can address the big data needs, because there's a lot of data out there. We have a ton of data that we currently have on our students. There's more data we're going to be collecting. If we, in fact, integrate our systems with other systems, that data will come into our systems and we'll just continue to populate the size of our systems. How do we manage all that? We want to make sure that we have enough storage capacity for it. We're talking about a network operating center, and we just call them a NOC if you want to get all that really cool term. So if you talk about a NOC, if you say you have a NOC, that means you're really cool. But what's really cool about a NOC is that it's a 24/7 monitoring center. You monitor your systems. Are they up? Are they running? Are you having any problems? Do you have any sort of systems that are running slow? Or do you have any congestion areas? It really is a way for the district to know and rest, as we say, sleep at night, knowing that these systems are being monitored, and that if there is a problem with the email system, I don't figure it out by a phone call. It's already been seen and assessed by someone inside of our system who's managing this thing 24 hours a day. The other is of course, the SOC, the Security Operations Center. And what's important about a SOC is that we want to be ahead of potential hackers. I just saw something on the news the other night about the amount of hacking that's taking place at the federal government sites. You know, when you have a big sets of data centers, they're great places for folks to hack into. And it's not just to get your data, it's just they want to use your data centers for storage capacity. Well, we generally find out we're being hacked because, you know, someone's out there monitoring the system, looking at something, and they see something that looks suspicious. What I'm saying is we don't have a dedicated center that looks at this and monitors it 24/7. We need to have that. It's just a security system that we know we need to have. We're trying to do as much as we can with the shortfall in resources we have in that area, but we need to put in a security operations center. It's not terribly expensive, but it's expensive not to have the system. The data centers, and not to beat this horse to death, the data center, the primary data center, we are, which is in a secret location we can't tell anyone about, we are looking at it right now to see how we can refresh that data center. There are some systems that are running, I think, up to 12 years old. It's maxed out. We want to see how do we improve the data center. How do we give it a new? It's like a remodel of your house. You know, periodically you want to come through and refresh your house and make sure your hardware and your systems are running right, and that's what we want to do, and we're doing right now. And the other is disaster recovery. We have a disaster recovery plan, needs to be updated. We're in the process of working on getting the DR system updated, tested, to make sure we're ready for anything that would negatively impact us to be able to do business. So that's one of the outcomes, is we want to make sure these pieces are addressed and we can sleep at night knowing that our hardware systems are running and they're safe and secure. Keep going forward, addressing the issues. We want to make sure our skills gaps are updated. We have to update our teams. But there's just this is not really an option for us. Our skills are waning. We have to, we just need to address these. And so we're going to address those from a technical, functional, and soft skills, because too many times we get called propeller heads, which I think is a bad word. So please, we're going to try to address our soft skills, so we'll be a little less propeller head, more kumbayage, for lack of a better term. And they know what I'm talking about. We do want to address our ITS teams, how we work together in the future. Why is this important to us? We don't just want to hire a bunch of people. We want to make sure that we as an organization are prepared to have the environment that they're going to need. If you do a lot of research in the HR area, it says, you know what, the next generation of workers which are out there, which are 26 years old, little babies, when they come to work for you, there's certain expectations they have. They have expectation for collaboration, teamwork. They're looking at job rotation, looking at flexible workplaces. All these things that today aren't really available to traditional IT shops. We're actually looking at our organization saying, how do we create a work environment that's conducive to the next generation of worker? Because they're coming, you're actually educating them right now, so we know they're going to be here any day now. But it is important, I make little jokes and quips, but it is important to know this is a business that's driven by people. It is driven by training. And we're looking at the individual training of each staff member. What we can't do is just make a broad blanket, everyone's going to do this, everyone's going to do that. We want to look at each person's abilities, where they're at today, where they need to be, where the gaps exist, and we want to fill that gap in. Because it's just not fair. I know we assume that people can do whatever it is we ask them to do, but this is a very complex world we live in, a very complex set of systems. And it's not fair to use sort of a broad brush with these folks. We want to sit down and spend time with them individually, get a plan for them, get them trained, and we want to maintain those skill sets as well. So we want to do an individual staff training plan. Then we want to offer them and commit to them ongoing staff training to maintain and broaden their skills into the future. And we also want to make sure that we realize that no matter how much we train folks, no matter how many folks we have on board, there are going to come times when we're going to need external help, specialized skills. And so we want to be able to have a plan in place that says, as we do projects, as we approach certain things, what's our thinking on bringing in external help to fill in the gaps? It's going to happen. It's a fact of life. Every school does it. No one likes it, but it's just a fact of life. We don't want to approach it willy-nilly, which we don't now, but we don't want to approach it willy-nilly. We want to make sure that we have a plan in place that says we know our skills. And so if we have these matrices of skills, we know where the gaps exist, we know we're going to need someone for X many hours at a cost of Y. So we want to have a defined approach for looking at short-term skills deficiencies and filling those gaps in. And once the transformation plan is done, we will have all these software systems upgraded and replaced. So the SIS system, which everyone hears about, which is ongoing, SSE, which is ongoing. We're looking at the HR piece because of the compensation study and the job classifications. We're going to have to do a major change to that system. You might just say we're going to do a new implementation of the system. Financial systems is at an end of life. It's just a fact. It's no longer being supported. Well, let me check that. It is being supported. It's being supported for the next couple of years, but there is no additional functionality added to the system. And so what we did as an organization, everyone says, well, what do you do all day long? We think about these things. One of the things we did is several months back with CFS, we were making investments in CFS. We stopped making investments. We decided we needed to look at the future of it because we saw it was coming in for landing. We quit spending on it. We went out and we just said, let's see what's available out there in the near future. Can we wring 2 more years out of this thing, get us maximum value out of it, and then potentially in 2 years replace it? So I'm not about throwing away the system, but I'm not about continuing investing in a system when we know the system's going to go away in a couple of years if we can just make do with it. So we know our financial systems are going away the next couple of years. We also know that our budgeting system is going to need to be replaced. As we change financials work with budgets. You can't have one replaced without the other, so we're sort of in the same situation there. And of course, our reporting services have to be maintained up to date, and we are working now to to actually bring our reporting systems together, to look at all the things that we're using in our reporting systems, and see how we can create a single reporting system, or at least reduce the number of systems that we have to be able to get better data out to the colleges and out to our administrative folks as well. So that's what's going to happen in that area. And then back to the staffing shortage. We definitely want to be able to commit to our teams. This is not about me. It's not about this is about students. I realize that, but I really need to help our team get some relief. If you just come spend a day with our team, I'm not inviting you, but if you came and spend a day with our team, hey, they're busy. They don't have time to show you around. Trust me, they're busy folks. I want to make sure they have adequate staff to meet the required services. We have a unique business in that just because you can do one thing doesn't mean you can do the other thing. It's such a specialized business that we have to spend time trying to figure out, okay, if Joe does this, all the work that Joe does, do I need 1 Joe, 2 Joe, 3 Joes, or 4 Joes? Because those 4 Joes that I have can't come over and do this other activity. So it's this like a game of chess, figuring out where your people go. And if Joe wants to leave this area, Joe has to be retrained to go in that area, and that doesn't come at a cheap cost. So we want to make sure our people are aligned to our new services and aligned to the work effort. We want to make sure that we have enough staff to allow new projects and services to hit our project portfolio. And I've been out among the college presidents, and I've said that right now we don't have enough staff to bring on a bunch of new projects. We know those new projects are out there. We know folks want access to our systems, and we want to provide that. But the fact is, you've only got this much time and this much work, and the work for the student systems, the work to maintain the ability to us to enroll students has to come first, and that comes at a cost. And I look at the college presidents, and they all want to smack me, and I don't blame you, but we're going to work to address the staffing needs so we can onboard more of those projects and provide more service to you. We do want to focus on innovation research. We're looking for, I have an Office of Innovation Research that we opened. Great. It's like No Child Left Behind. I need some money for it. I want to put people in there. I have an office and I need to put people in there. So this is my commitment to my team, is we're going to innovate. We're going to learn about these services. We're going to look at all of our services. We're going to create a plan that says, in 3 years, here's where we're going to be. We want to make sure we can incorporate these into our system. But today, it's just the beginning. We need to make sure we've got staff in there and we've got support in there. We want to make sure we have the specialized staff to be able to manage these new service delivery options. Everyone knows we've got these new LMSs that we launched. Canvas is up and running. But we're also learning a lot about Canvas. We're learning a lot about SaaS models and cloud models. Well, we need to learn more. But unfortunately, we're sort of learning as we go along because we're so consumed that no one's really stopped and said, and I know I've talked with the legal team here and others about service level agreements. These are all the things we're having to learn on the fly, and that's really, frankly, no place to be learning is on the fly. And so we want to make sure that we have the staff who can focus on how do we work with the colleges, how do we deliver services to the college, what if there's a problem with the college, how do we make sure that the functionality is delivered out to the colleges so the students don't wake up one morning and a button disappears. We all know that one, right? You wake up and a button's gone, you're like, who moved my button? We want to make sure that we're on top of this. We want to, again, make sure we have the strategic approach to providing necessary external resources to support our projects. Very serious. We know we're going to need folks. We know we're going to not get rid of folks, but we want to make sure that we understand when they're coming on board and what we're going to use them for. Same goes with our external services options. You see the term multi-sourcing. There's another cool word you can start using because it's a fairly new word. Outsourcing, co-sourcing, managed services, all kinds of different ways to manage your what we call commoditized service or standardized services. It's the whole thing with electricity. Who's your power company? Don't know. As long as the power comes on, I don't care. We're sort of in the same way. If we have things we have to do on a regular basis that 600 other schools are doing, and someone can manage that for us at a reasonable price, it can be a lot more cost effective than us saying, well, let's manage it in house. And so we want to put together a mix of external service options to support these sort of standardized services, and we call it out multi-sourcing. So anyway, these are the things that we know as we get through this transformation plan over the next year or two. These are the kind of things that we're going to address and going to have to address, and they come at a cost. And so all that being said, how do we look to our Maricopa folks and say who wants to help? Well, we've already been out to the colleges and the divisions, and We've given them a bit of a, and I think we're all in agreement. That's the beautiful thing of this, is we're all in agreement that we know where we're at, we know where we want to be going, everyone wants to help. We're not looking for help today. We want to be responsible to folks and not just go ripping teams out. So we've said to the colleges, to the presidents, we'd like to be able to bring in some new folks on some contracts with you. We've defined those resources, and we're actually prepared to release that information out to the college presidents and let them take a look at it. But we want to go internally. And it's an interesting thing. Why do we want to go internally? And it's not just because we don't want to go out and hire folks. It's because we want your brain power. We want the folks who've been in the system for several years. They know Maricopa. They know the processes. They have a working understanding of how things work. Then when we bring them on board, it doesn't take 4 or 5 or 6 months of lost time where they're trying to figure out how things are done. I always find it interesting when I'm talking to any of the vice chancellors. They have this long, I've been here 10 years, 12 years, 15 years. John's been here 20-some years, same with Kelly. It's amazing the things they know. They have a history. You can't buy that history. Literally, you can't buy it. So if we can find good folks out in amongst our colleges who can help us, they bring in a lot of really important information to us. And so that's really, it's very selfish, but that's the reason that I like to see those folks come in. We're looking for some ongoing operational support. Again, training, that's the theme of the night is training. We need to train our folks, and it's not just a one-time training event. We need to make sure they have ongoing training. And we looked at it very, very closely. It's very expensive stuff, and we've talked internally how we address it, working with our change management and training group on this. And it's not that some of the training we'd actually like to see provided by Maricopa. I think it's very appropriate training, soft skills training. But we have a lot of technical training that has to be done with certified partners. And that's terribly expensive. If you go to training at Oracle, it can run you $3,000 a week or so per employee. So we're trying to find ways to reduce that cost so we can maximize that training experience for them and keep our folks on campus where we actually need them to work in the evenings, so to speak. So training, innovation, research, development. Again, I got an office, no bodies per se, no budget per se, but we need that office desperately. New resources, just goes without saying, we are down folks. We've got gaps in our areas. We've got folks who need help, and they're all giving me the evil eye, and I'm trying to get you the help so we can help deliver services out to you. And of course, we are looking at the software replacement, which is capital, infrastructure upgrade, which is capital. I know last month we talked about coming out with a 3 to 5 year plan. We've got that plan being laid out, but we don't have all the numbers yet. And we didn't think it was fair to come in tonight and say, here are some numbers, they're speculative numbers, and if they're off by $1.50, $2, I couldn't guarantee you they would be off by a small number. And so we just couldn't bring those numbers tonight. We do hope to have those numbers in the next few weeks for you, and we'll set another meeting with you to talk about the budgetary needs. So that's where we're at with those. And of course, we do need the institutional support of the vision and the plan. The reality is this is a tough slog. It's not easy. It's going to take a lot of work by a lot of folks. Our team's ready. They're really, they're dying for this. The colleges need it. The students need it. We need the chancellor to be on board, which he is, and the exec team. We need the board on board, which is sort of redundant sounding, but we need you guys on board, and Ms. Pearson too. So that's where we're at. Is we need some help, and we've got some specific requests out there. And the question I have is, okay, well, when you get there, John, how do you know you're there? Right. So you've done all this work. How do you know you're there? If we say we have if we're a fully staffed organization, trained, ready, and able to deliver new services, if we can tell you that, we've all won, because then we can deliver the services that we need. A strategic approach to using external resources is needed when needed to fill short-term gaps on projects. You've heard me say it 2 or 3 times. That is my commitment. I don't want to flood the place. I want to make sure we have the right resources on site at the right time. Balanced multi-sourcing approach to support services. I want to be able to bring that back to you and show you, here's what we're going to be doing for managed services. Here's the kind of things we're going to be doing to potentially reduce some. And it's not just about cost. It will save us money, but imagine this. You take your really good talent and you have them basically, putting on little nuts on a wheel all day long. It's like, well, this is really boring. Are there other things they could be doing that could be more important to you? And so what I'd like to do is be able to take some of those things that really are just sort of monotonous, mundane, move them out and have our folks do more important things, maybe do things that are more creative and be able to offer more services out to our students in our colleges. flexible, change-ready, high-energy services team. Huge goal. But I think if we hit if we do what we said we're going to do, I think we'll see our teams be there. They will be flexible. They will be available to work, and they will be excited about coming to work. Creative, responsive, dependable services partner. That's what we are as a partner. We want to be a partner to the colleges. We want to be a partner to the districts around us, whether it's Arizona State, whether it's NAU, whatever college it is. We want to be able to tie into their systems. We want to partner with them. We'd like to partner with industry as well. We've got a lot of things that we know we can do. It's going to take work to get there, but look, I'm jazzed. I'm an old guy, and I'm jazzed about this. So if an old guy like me can be jazzed, our young team is ready to go. So again, quips. Apologize, didn't mean to offend anyone, but I'm here to answer questions that you might have.
Questions from the board?
In our Canvas system, is that part of our needs in terms of integrating that with the SIS system?
Canvas, no. Canvas is, let me check this. And I will turn to my esteemed colleague to make sure. As it stands right now, what we've made the decision on is Canvas. Canvas holds our LMS, which is really our classes, those bits of data. Typically what you don't want to do in a cloud solution is start outsourcing a lot of your other data points. You can jump in anytime you want to here. What happens is, for example, all your student records, your records of GPA and all those kind of pieces, you don't want to outsource that, and so we don't want to tie a lot of that back into a Canvas solution. But now here's the question that I would pose back to the owners of Canvas. If there's something that you need Canvas to do from a business operational perspective, and it makes sense to you, and we can support it, absolutely we will do it. Again, I don't own Canvas. I don't own the solution. It's owned by a business owner. The business owner with the governance group looks at it and says, here are the things we need to do. If they come to me and say, hey, we need to be able to pull data X, Y, and Z, and they've got their business case, I'm not there to say you can't pull data X, Y, and Z. I'm there to make sure that data X, Y, and Z gets pulled. So probably not the answer you're looking for, but I can actually get some specifics on that if you'd like.
I'm looking at the scope of things. I mean, obviously, technology and everything you talked about tonight is essential to our student experience and our end results that we're looking for.
Yeah.
It's not cheap, obviously.
No.
And it's not going to happen overnight. But I really appreciate the fact that you've taken us from where we had been to where we're today and have a good idea where we want to get to. We just have to make sure as a board and administration that resources are there to make it happen. It's not just day-to-day, but long-term.
This really is the question at hand is the bigger vision. We are an expensive business. Not just higher education, that's an expensive business, but technology is an expensive business. And we don't have an option to buy small systems, because when you look out here at hundreds of thousands of hits and FA, and I mean, it staggers my mind. And I've been in this business a long time. When I look at Maricopa's numbers, it's staggering to think of how many transactions you perform on a daily and an hourly basis, which means you have to have large systems that are powerful to run those things and really smart people to keep those things up and running. And it's not a cheap business. And so, we've made the commitment, and the question becomes, if we, what do we not do? I guess that's the question I would ask. And we've got to enroll students. We have to do financial aid. We have to be able to do a zillion things. But if we can't afford those zillion things, what of those things do we not do? I mean, I'm not going to make that decision. I mean, again, I'm a services guy. You say cut it off, I cut it off. If you say let it die, it's going to die. It's not my decision. But someone's got to make that hard decision on, if we can't have a financial system, how do we pay bills? If we can't do payroll, how do we pay our people? It's not my decision, but you're right. I wouldn't want to be in your position to have to figure out how you're going to pay for it. But we're here. We can make it happen, and we're with you.
Anybody else? We are aware of our dependence on IT, and on behalf of the board, I think we all agree. We appreciate what the IT folks are doing, and appreciate this presentation. Okay. Let's see where we are. Dr. Glasper, did you want to do your higher education? Are we doing that?
I can do it. I can do it under the chancellor's report.
Okay. The next item is monitoring reports. Ms. Thompson?
Mr. President, members of the board, this is the budget analysis report for the first 7 months of the fiscal year through January 2013. This is a report we provide monthly, and it looks at what our actuals are in revenue collections and expenditures compared to the budget that was adopted and the operating budget. And we are on track in terms of both our revenue collections and our expenditures. As I've said many times in the past, expenditures generally are fairly predictable because the largest expenditure is payroll, and that's occurring every 2 weeks. So nothing unusual to report there. Revenues also have a certain pattern in terms of collections, with property taxes being very strong in October, November when the first bills are due, and then again in April and May. Tuition tends to coincide with the starts of the semesters, particularly fall and spring, and then state aid is distributed quarterly. So we are on track, and the patterns we're seeing are what we would have predicted. Our financial stability requirement, which is a board policy, is a requirement that we expect to meet at the end of the fiscal year, and there are no issues that I have to share.
Okay. Thank you. Let's see, the general unrestricted fund, is that all, everything's included in that? All right. Community linkage, governing board member reports. Mr. Starr?
No.
And Mr. Lum?
For the sake of time. Yeah, I did want to say something. Dana Starr and Doyle went with me to AAEC, which is Arizona Equine Business Equine Center, which is the charter school that we have at 4 of our schools, or neighboring 4 of our schools. We went to the ones at Australia Mountain and South Mountain, and it's quite an eye-opener as far as how they get the high school students attending college classes. So like a freshman would attend our college success class, they're required to do that. And every grade level, they're going to our math classes, our art classes. They will ask the college to prepare a class for them at certain times, and then they fill them up with 24 students. So their students are graduating with an AA degree, and then 2 weeks later they graduate with a high school degree. Some don't get all their AA degree, but they are walking out almost with a year and a half of college credit. And it's just a marvelous system. I know we do it at 2 of our schools, but I'd like to see more high schools do similar things where we could actually go to their campus or something similar. So I'll be encourage them to do that. I went to the Healing Racism series at Phoenix College. I thought it was really outstanding with the ASU program and our college program. I want to compliment them on that Healing Racism series. It was excellent and good participation. I went to a training at Phoenix College on copyright and copyright issues, and I found it really opened my eyes to understanding the issue and plagiarism. I attended the Chinese Lunar New Year banquet, which is a very fun cultural event where Paul Luna from Helios spoke on education. I thought it was an outstanding job he did. I went here at Terry O'Banion. I saw that he was going to be at Phoenix College, an outstanding person with the League for Innovation. So I went to see him at Phoenix College. He did an outstanding job talking to the teachers there, and they're from a lot of colleges that also, not only from Phoenix College, talking on time registration. He liked that we quoted that. We coined that phrase, on time, as opposed to no late registration, but on time registration, and how we're moving into no late registration. He was given the argument why we need on time registration, all the research he's done, and all his travels throughout the colleges around the country. I went to the Male Empowerment Network Conference, which was an outstanding motivational speaker. he just had those kids captured, and awesome job with that, inspiring these kids to find their goals and be successful. Had a meeting with some city officials and a city councilman, and with Dr. Giovannini. They were interested in the corporate college, and Dr. Giovannini, thank you for your time, and they were just like in awe. I went to lunch with them afterwards, and they were just so trying to figure out how they can work it into their economic development at their individual cities. I want to thank Deborah Thompson for the outstanding job she did with the financial forums. I went to the one at Rio, and I thought it was very good. I hope it was there for all the faculty and staff at FCCD, and I thought she gave a good big picture of where we're going, and she made an effort to go to every college. Outstanding job.
Thank you. Mr. Miranda?
Yes. Well, real briefly, because I know everybody wants to get out of here. Washington, D.C. Had a great trip with the rest of the board members, participated in the trustee training that's given to new members. Found that very, very interesting, but also very educational. And, of course, I'm still on my learning curve. And also participated in a legal workshop, which I found interesting. There's a lot of changes, a lot of new changes that are coming down in terms of legal implications for school districts or community college districts, that is. I found particularly interesting the Affordable Care Act and the way it affects community colleges. I think it's going to be an issue that's looming in the horizon, and I think we're going to have to deal with it as a board. There's uncertainty as to what the cost is for the district, but certainly it's something that we can expect in the future to have to address. Also, today I had the opportunity to visit Southmont Community College, and I appreciate the President's reception and a great college. Almost all of them have been fabulous. I had an opportunity with President Lada to visit him before that, but also Phoenix College with Dr. Soley. I had an opportunity to visit them, and I'm scheduled for the Chandler Gilbert campus very soon. In fact, within the next 2 weeks. As I look forward to it, and as I go through this, it's just a learning curve for me. I expect it to take a little bit of time, but I'm here to learn, and I appreciate your input. Thank you.
Thank you. I have no report. The internal community, Dr. Glasper.
Mr. President, members of the board, I would like to take a few moments to talk to you about the Higher Education and Workforce Development Committee presentation that I did on February 6th. We had been asked to show the video of that presentation or a link, but the audio portion didn't come through very well. So I have provided copies of my written presentation as well. But let me summarize what we were trying to do that day. We had been asked by the chairman of the committee, which is Representative Dial, to present the community college perspective and also to talk about a series of bills that we have. I was one of 4 community college presidents in the state of Arizona. I was representing the urban system as Maricopa, as well as representing the state president's council, because I'm currently the chair of the council. In addition to my presentation, there was a presentation by Dr. Leah Bornstein, who is president of Coconino Community College, Dr. J.D. Rottweiler, who's the president of Cochise College, and Dr. Gene Swarthout, president of Northland Pioneer. We took an opportunity to talk to the committee in regard to what community colleges do. We did not use our time, which was approximately an hour, to talk about bills that we had in front of them, because we think it's important for us to address the fact that community colleges are the largest provider of workforce training in the state of Arizona. When we look at the bill, when we look at the appropriation requests that are come from the state legislature and the governor's office, our community colleges do not fare well at all. In fact, Maricopa Community Colleges and also Pima have no funding that is being requested by either of the branches of state government. And what is happening is that there is a request for funding for the rural community colleges, but it's 50% of the requested capital funding, so it's about $3.2 million. In essence, we've been given the charge to say that we are a large institution and we need to find our resources elsewhere. So we have taken the strategy of presenting the needs to the state. We do have a bill which is focused on capital funding, restoring the funding that had been eliminated for the last 5 years, and the total appropriation request is about $23 million, of which Maricopa would receive about $11 million. And what we're doing is focusing that on STEM education. As we look at the types of activities that are going on in the state, and I think Mr. Miranda's question relative to the sequestration, the impact on us, we've currently received a grant, which is the Trade Adjustment Act grant, of which Dr. Laura and Estrella Mountain are the lead, $13.2 million. We have a number of institutions, including Chandler Gilbert and Estrella, who are institutions that are receiving funding, as well as 2 other rural districts in the state and also another urban. But that particular grant will have the potential of being impacted. And that is a great example of what we're looking at in terms of energy and power sector relationships with the state, in terms of building stackable credentials at the lowest level for line workers and others that are involved in our electrical and nuclear energy system. And so we're trying to demonstrate the need for community colleges to have resources to address the fact that they need competent skills, they need soft skills, but they need technical skills in order to do the jobs that are required today. And we talked about the fact that one of those jobs could even be a welder. It could be a lower-level welding job, but it's one that requires some idea of the sciences that it takes in order for us to be able to build the ark on a submersible or something. I mean, if you're going underwater, you want to make sure that you don't have any water leakage in it. And it requires a technical skill. It requires skills above and beyond what we were looking at some 40 or 50 years ago as we were trying to think about the job of a welder in the old, what could be considered manufacturing or dirty profession. These professions are not dirty anymore. They're standing in front of computers, and the technology that is needed and the training that is needed comes from our institutions. So we spent time going through the different areas of which we provide services, and I mentioned energy, manufacturing, automotive, healthcare, skilled trades, HVAC, and others. But as we finish this conversation, we're also trying to talk about a bill that we have in play, and that's on jobs. And it's a jobs bill that we're trying to work with the Arizona Commerce Authority. Our community colleges are currently not the recipient of resources from the Arizona Commerce Authority, and we're trying to provide opportunities to provide training for incumbent workers and new workers coming into the state of Arizona with skill sets that will meet our needs both now and moving forward. And we think that our community colleges, and as we move forward on the corporate college, can be responsive to that particular need. So as we finished our presentation, I will tell you that we were able to get a due pass and 8 votes of moving our request out of that particular chamber. And we think that we have a committee that's listening, but we don't know what's going to happen in terms of overall funding for community colleges in Arizona, and again, more specifically, Maricopa. And the other thing that I want to share in relationship to that are 2 handouts that I provided with the board, and these are transfer documents. One document is a Maricopa transfer document, which comes out of our Articulation and Transfer Office. The other is an APAS document, which is Articulation and Transfer for Arizona Post-Secondary Education. And I draw attention to this particular document because it is the one piece of data for our institutions that's supported by data from the State Assist System, which is run by the Board of Regents. And it, in essence, says that what we're doing in our community colleges, we're doing well. We have been able to create the Pathways program in the last 3 to 4 years, where our students are transferring seamlessly to Arizona State University. This particular report talks about the number of students who transfer with 12-plus hours. And the front page says that for ASU, 76% of the undergraduates at ASU have 12 or more hours from the Maricopa system. And when you begin to look at the impact, and I heard this statement earlier, and I believe it was from Mr. Miranda, this document validates the fact that a student who transfers from our colleges with a minimum of 35 credit hours, which is equivalent to the Arizona General Education curriculum and or an associate degree, does as well as or better than a native student who starts at the university and then graduates. In the Pathways program, I think it was driven by a number of things. It was driven by the need for increased productivity in the state of Arizona, but it was driven by a recession that forced a number of students to come to our community colleges because the price point was lower. We've been able to demonstrate that you can save between 40 and 50%. We have guaranteed tuition caps, guaranteed admissions into programs. We have established some 130 pathways now back from ASU to our colleges, and we're demonstrating that the numbers are growing each and every year and that there's quality in our system coming to a Maricopa College and other community colleges in the state of Arizona. So I would encourage all of us to look at the data that's produced internally, but also by our state university system, because it's supporting the fact that we're doing a good job. And think about the fact that if we could increase the retention within our system and move more students into the pipeline, keep more students in the state of Arizona to keep jobs and work levels. And also, there was an article that was in CNN today, CNN Money Report, which talks about the fact that community college grads out-earn bachelor's degree holders. And it talks about a number of different jobs. Now, we still need to look at this in relationship to some of the jobs we have in Arizona and nationally, but in many cases, that is the case. We are considered, I heard Dr. Giovannini mention this today, we're considered the graduate school for many students during this recession, for sure, because they're coming back to be retrained in technical skills so that they can go out and get jobs and then be able to sustain their families and themselves. So I just want to encourage us again that we are being recognized in many areas around the country for what we're able to do, and I just wish we were being recognized within the state of Arizona so that we can utilize some additional resources. Earlier we talked about funding, and we looked at the numbers that have transcended on this particular screen. I've mentioned in the past that we had a high of funding of about 27-28% in the mid-80s. Carnegie Commission in 1973, and I think Associate Vice Chancellor Murphy mentioned this as well. You know, we have this three-legged stool, and it was looked at to be funded at 33 1/3%. And in 1987, 1988, the state of Arizona was moving towards 33 1/3%. Our high was about 27, 28, and we have since declined. The chart that was on the board tonight shows us at 1%. And temporary sales tax goes away in a couple of months. What happens then? Question I still ask is, what relationship will we have when we have no state funding, but at the same time we're building a performance-based funding model so that we can be on par with the K-12 system, whose funding formula will be moving forward soon, and the universities, which started in October over a year ago. And as we start producing students, it will not be on those students that come to our door and are there at 45th day anymore. It'll be on the number of students that we're able to move through our system, that we can demonstrate progress through developmental ed courses, through certificate programs, through AA degree and transfer. We need to expand the definition for community colleges so that we're not just linked to transfer students or graduating students from our institution, because we do much more. We need to base it on intent, and if a student comes to us and wants the 3-hour course, we need to be able to deliver it. If a corporation wants 3 sessions on a particular type of software or other, we need to be able to deliver it, and we should be able to get some funding in support of that, either from the state, through the Arizona Commerce Authority, or through the corporate college in terms of a model that will generate resources that allow us to provide support and sustain these activities. What we presented tonight was consistent with the board's charge to move towards our agenda for completion. And everything that we need there is a IT system to support our efforts, to have student systems that allow our students to be successful, and it's a theme. We will have to make some tough choices, and we need a safe environment. None of what we gave you tonight is easy. And in order for us to address it, we will need to decide what we want to do. Community colleges are great, but we want to be all things to all people. and we continue to stretch ourselves. We continue to do multiple jobs. We continue to ask people to do more for less. And what we're asking the board to do is to look at the picture, to look at the landscape that we've laid out, and help us make some choices even within our own departments or colleges or district office. And let's see if we can partner over the next few years. And just like the state had to balance their budget, we need to balance our budget. And I will close by making one statement. During this entire recession, during everything that you've seen, we still are the single largest institution in the country that has maintained a AAA bond rating from all three houses 4 times out of the last 5 years. And we did this in an environment where everything else was going down. So we can balance our budgets, we can remain financially stable, but my question to all of us will be, at what cost are we trying to continue to push our institutions to do more when we need to do more as partners? And I think we can build that case for the legislature and our community partners as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Secretary's report, Mr. Sarr. Okay. Faculty Executive Council, I don't see Mr. Kravik. Dr. Udicello.
President Burke, members of the Governing Board, Chancellor Glasper, members of CEC and guests. FEC has no report tonight. Harold Cranswick couldn't be with us. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's see, employee group reports. Ms. Jackie Fisher, Voice, Maricopa. Ms. Fisher, are you here? All right. Mr. Kerry Mitchell, Management, Administration, Technology. None. Okay. No Vice Chancellor's reports. College reports. Dr. Anna Solly.
President Burke, Chancellor Glasper, members of the Governing Board, colleagues, and diminishing guests.
Catch the news at 10.
It gives me great pleasure to introduce to you Lionel Diaz and Doug McCarthy. They're going to talk to you about the 5 years of planning, design, and construction that has led to total renovation at Phoenix College with Hanley Center and our one-stop student enrollment center. And I really would like to acknowledge their leadership, which has been outstanding, as well as the leadership of Gary Everhard and I. There's Gary. Thank you so much for all your hard work. Arlen Solowchek and Vice Chancellor Deborah Thompson, because without their support, as well as the support of all the PC faculty and staff, who provided a lot of leadership and direction, we wouldn't be talking about the success of our project tonight. So without further ado, I'll turn it over to you. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. President, members of the board, Chancellor, CEC, colleagues and guests. 1 year ago, Phoenix College opened its new enrollment center and the new student union. It was only 1 month ago that PC held the grand opening for the new expanded and remodeled Hanley Center. These celebrations marked 60 months of hard decisions, a lot of planning, design, construction, and relocations. We would like to make a very brief, I'll repeat, very brief, presentation of what PC and its partners have achieved over the last 5 years with funds from the 2004 bond program and the support of the Chancellor and the Governing Board. I'm going to pass this on to Doug McCarthy.
Thank you, Lionel.
No tuck?
Recognize you, Doug.
Mr. President, Governing Board members, CEC, guests, I did buy a new tie, Mr. Sarr, so. Okay, I'll go through this very quickly. When we started in 2008, we had 4 primary goals, and they were to improve and consolidate the student services, which at that time were in 4 separate buildings, into one seamless operation, cross-train the staff to increase efficiency, tear down the silos between the departments, again, for a seamless student experience in enrollment, create a new student union, and develop more outdoor spaces for students. This is looking at our new one-stop enrollment center. As the flagship in the Maricopa District, I think it's safe to say we're also the flagship of the one-stop enrollment services process as well. This is looking into our one-stop. Basically, students come in. Again, our staff has been cross-trained so that they can handle a multitude of student issues quickly and efficiently. So students come in, they're triaged at the front. As they need further and deeper levels of assistance, they move throughout this process. As the students are waiting, we have a system called QLIS, which by means of video monitors and texting to their phones, students can circulate throughout this whole space, out into the sophomore square and over into the student union, and still keep their place in line, so they don't have to stand there in line. Again, this is looking back. The big video monitor up there on the wall, we have video monitors all throughout the campus, again, to show the QLIS system as well as events that are going on at Phoenix College, and we also show the news as well sometimes. We call this area Main Street. This is looking west towards 15th Avenue. If you look at these computers up here behind this station, that's for students to be able to come in and use My Maricopa and register themselves. This is the atrium. We wanted to create a very strong linkage since we had 2 levels. We wanted to bring natural light into the lower level as well as create a linkage between the upper and lower since it's all student services. So we built this beautiful atrium, and below in the lower level is our counseling areas, testing, and Reach Trio. This is Sophomore Square looking north. Sophomore Square, Hanley Center, and the Student Union were a holistic design, all designed around efficiency, the availability for students to have ample area to network, hang out if you will, and put on activities. This is looking down into the atrium, and beyond that is the one-stop shop. So what you're seeing in the distance is new construction. What you're seeing here is actually a renovated building that was built in 1966. And when it was all finished, they look like one beautiful building. This is our new cafeteria. Our dining has increased so much that now we are the #1 campus in terms of food service numbers in the district. And that's amazing. If any of you were in our old cafeteria, you can see the tremendous transition we've made. This is looking at the remodeled Hanley Center. That was an existing building that was renovated. And again, this is Sophomore Square looking south from the John Paul Theater. I think that's it for me.
This is,
yes, I missed one.
Yep.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
This is the Student Union. Sorry about that, Lionel. We took a 1936 original Phoenix College building and renovated it. What you see above you, this beautiful steel work and the skylight and stuff, this was actually above 2 ceilings that was concealed. And Gary and I in the early days were up there climbing around and discovered the beautiful original architecture of the building. Everything was opened up to expose it. Again, bringing in natural light, stripping the plaster off of the red brick to expose that, and give it really a kind of an urban industrial look that's very exciting. And let me tell you, this room is packed all the time. It has truly become the hub we all dreamed it would be. And again, I think this is my last slide, actually. This is looking south through Sophomore Square. As you can see, everything has been planned for the whole area, once again, to pull in activities and students, and it is truly a vibrant hub of our college, even more so than it ever was. Just a little sidebar, the fountain that you see out there, that's our Sophomore Square fountain. And the original Sophomore Square fountain was a gift of the class of 1966. When we demolished it, we took the red bricks out of it, and we rebuilt the base of this fountain with those red bricks to continue the heritage and tradition of Phoenix College. Thank you for your time.
Mm-hmm.
These new and remodeled buildings have allowed PC to transform and improve student services. They allow staff to work more efficiently under one roof. Although it's been a labor of love for many people over the last 5 years, we want to acknowledge the leadership of President Solly, the work of Vice Presidents Brimage and DeRose, the PC Facilities Director, Doug McCarthy, District Vice Chancellor Debbie Thompson, the Facilities Project Manager Gary Eberhard, who was acknowledged earlier, the architects at RNL, and the contractor D.L. Wither. We appreciate the support of the Chancellor and the Governing Board, and especially the voters of Maricopa County, who supported the 2004 bond election, and especially the communities that have supported PC and the district. Doug?
Again, I echo your remarks, and I would just like to say it's such an exciting place to work. As Dr. Westenberg said earlier this evening, Maricopa is a great place to work. Phoenix College is especially a great place to work, and we are so proud of the achievements, not only from what we have done in terms of the physical plant, but the collaboration and the level of collaboration across all departments of Phoenix College to make this a reality, as well as facilities planning and development, and the support from you folks has been phenomenal. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
I went to the grand opening. It was awesome. It was really a beautiful building. Thanks for saving the mural. And I hope we're going to retouch that up, right? Yeah, but that's a beautiful job.
All right. External community, the AADGB report. The Arizona Association of District Governing Board members will meet on March 28 here at the district. And we are currently planning a statewide meeting for September of this year. ASBA report, Mr. Sard?
None.
Okay. Legislative update, Mr. Ryan DeMena.
President Burke, members of the board, Chancellor Glasper, members of CEC, and all others present. My name is Ryan DeMena, Senior Associate with DeMena & Associates, and DeMena & Associates provides government relations services to the Maricopa County Community College District. Some of this might sound familiar given the Chancellor's earlier comments, but I'll go through this as quickly as possible. Today marks the 44th day of the legislative session. There have been 1,145 pieces of legislation and 70 memorials and resolutions introduced to date. The deadline to introduce bills, as well as the deadline to hear bills in their chamber of origin, have passed. As I mentioned in my previous legislative update, the Maricopa legislative team is working closely with our other community college districts in support of the statewide 2013 legislative agenda developed and adopted by the Arizona Community College President's Council. As a reminder, the comprehensive legislative agenda consists of three primary components. 1, development of a statewide job training infrastructure that better leverages the community college's existing job training resources. 2, a goal of $23 million in capital funding to acquire industry standard equipment for job training. And 3, support the Arizona Department of Education's request to restore the state match for adult basic education funding. With regard to job training, we are working closely with the chairman of the House Higher Education and Workforce Development Committee, Representative Jeff Dial. Representative Dial has convened a number of stakeholder meetings to discuss the existing job training program, and as a result, the Arizona Commerce Authority has developed a timeline for reviewing and redrafting the rules that govern this program. Moving forward, Maricopa now has a seat at that table and will continue to develop a new model that better utilizes existing community college job training resources. This is an exciting and positive development early in the legislative session. The capital funding request is also making some very positive progress. House Bill 2265, which replaces capital outlay funding with funding for STEM and workforce programs, is the placeholder for this budget request and passed out of the House on February 25th with unanimous support. Just today, we met with Senate President Andy Biggs and the head of the governor's budget office to continue gathering support for this request. Lawmakers and the governor are presently working to reconcile revenue estimates as a starting point for the fiscal year 2014 budget, and as a result, we have not yet determined the level of support for adult basic education funding. The governor's office is clearly open to funding this issue at some level if additional data becomes available. Regardless, the Maricopa legislative team will continue working closely with the Arizona Department of Education to secure state funding for this program. We will be sure to provide you with additional updates as the legislative session progresses, and with that, I'm happy to stand for questions.
Questions?
Good job.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. DeMena, and I encourage you to ask for overtime.
Is there a new committee on a voter committee on elections that's new at the state legislature?
President Burke and Mr. Lum, that is correct. There is a Senate committee specifically focused on elections.
Yeah, I'm disappointed because it's probably not Well, it is a community college issue. There's a lot of voter suppression, 3 bills coming out of there in the Senate, voter suppression bills. They try to keep people from voting.
President Burke, I'd be happy to look into that, follow up with some additional data. I'm not following too closely exactly what's come out of that committee yet. Obviously very focused on Maricopa's legislative program.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And just a follow-up on this, excuse me.
Sure.
What the Chancellor said earlier is of utmost importance. We have to wake up the legislature to what the needs are and what we're producing. It's amazing to me that we've gotten to this point and we're getting so little support for and considering the fact that we produce a workforce for Arizona. But I applaud you for your work. I know you're working hard.
Thank you. And President Burke, Mr. Miranda, for what it's worth, I know the Chancellor did an excellent job in his higher education presentation. That message is being received by members. I think that we are starting to turn the ship a little bit in that direction. So slowly but surely we'll get there.
Thank you very much. Our next meeting is on March 5. It's a work session, and we are going to be talking about online education. Then we'll have a regular board meeting on March 26, a business meeting. And with the board's permission, I'm going to determine that we are currently oversubscribed. And then we adjourn.